welcome back to Phil's Recap and Review. This is for Back to the Future, episode... Oh, no, wait. Wait, whoops. Sorry, inside joke to anyone who's been watching a long time. This is for The Walking Dead, Season 9, Episode 16, The Storm, the season finale of The Walking Dead. You wouldn't know it, but it was the season finale of The Walking Dead tonight. And in general, I'll get this out of the way at the beginning. There were certain elements of this episode that I did like, but it was more in how it was filmed and how it looked. I liked the snow as a different area to see stuff in the Walking Dead universe. It's been too long since, or we have never really seen this. It should have been introduced sooner as a scenario instead of just yada yada in the winters. So I like that we saw this. It created a couple of new scenarios that we haven't seen before. But in general, I don't know. We'll get into this episode, but I found this sort of a very uninspired season finale, especially coming off, I think, two of the better episodes in the run. Even though I wasn't 100% feeling it, I think the last two episodes were heading in a slightly better direction, as Joe Dirtylocks was ranting about. But tonight's episode just seemed like they ran out of stuff to do, and it was just they skipped ahead time. They did another yada yada time jump where the kingdom apparently fell apart after the events of the alpha spiking crap that happened. But after that point, then they just said, we'll skip all that shit. We'll skip everyone's actual human reaction about something. And instead of that, we'll get exposition bullshit again. And that's just boring bullshit. Especially when the writing is uninspired and clunky, almost Saved by the Bell in the Walking Dead universe sometimes with how clunky some of the writing is in these dialogue and interactions. I would have rather see Carol and Ezekiel break apart. And I don't really care about that, but that's just one of the examples of that's the drama that's going on right now. So that's all we got. So I don't know. We're gonna get into this shit. Let me turn off this fucking music, and I'm not alone. Of course, we always have the live motherfucking chat. Everyone here tonight, thank you so much. And we also have a very special guest to talk about this final episode of the season, the one and only, back from a long break. I don't even know the last time David joined us, but we have the Walking David. How's it going, David?
Hey, how's it going, everybody? Phil, thanks for having me back on. I've missed you guys. I've wanted to call in like a million times to these shows, but because I'm on like a 3-hour time delay and I don't have access to a computer that won't get viruses, I can't stream the fucking thing except on my phone. Luckily, Phil helped me this time. Yeah,
tonight we had to go the Greyjoy waters and go see the Dread Pirate Roberts and try to find David a stream tonight, and it actually worked out. I'm happy it worked out.
Yeah, me too. God damn those fucking commercials. Now I get it again, because usually since I knew I was going to miss this stream, I would just be like, I'm going to wait an extra hour and then I won't have any commercials. I'll go on like couchturner.com and watch it without any commercials. I got spoiled. God damn. So many commercials for HIV tonight.
Yes. Stop being so HIV negative, David.
So, cut it out, guys. What do you have, AIDS or something? So
here we go. Right away, we got the Walking David back. Everyone loves the Walking David. Best season finale ever, says no one, says Mike. Jackson Samuel says, Phil, aside from the snow, it wasn't too amazing. No, it really wasn't. Fandom D Saint Broke Blackman 94. Can we just talk about Game of Thrones? Spin the wheel for Broke. He deserves a spin of the wheel for that super chat donation. Christian, great to see you. Santovia Major, Lindsay, awesome to see everyone in the live motherfucking chat tonight. Love all of you guys. Killmonger says, fuck this episode. Phil, end the stream. Say you'll be back in 1 minute. It needs to end. I don't know. It's going to be a hard episode to talk about, David, because not a lot happened other than they walked through the snow and there was some tension and some exposition. I mean, I babbled about that in the open, but I don't know. Do you have a different feel about this episode? Did you love this episode and I'm an idiot?
No.
And I know those things aren't mutually exclusive. I could be an idiot and you could agree with me.
Usually I'm kind of where like Joe is for the most part, which is why people are expecting a Joe rant. You'll probably get a David rant that's somewhat equivalent. It'll be slightly watered down without the accent. But
you'll try.
But here's the thing. I've got to really say, writers, bravo, because nothing winds down a season like exposition.
Yeah, it really amps things up for an exciting conclusion.
Yes. I don't fucking get that. That's someone seeing a stop sign and just You know,
Okay.
like, I don't know. It's like they stopped 100 yards short of a stop sign and caused a crash.
Yeah, let's take for that last week's episode was the exciting, crazy conclusion that they wanted to do. Then again, plot out the season and in a way that's the final shots that you see of the season, them discovering the faces. This seemed like, I don't know, a lot in this episode seemed wanting to be Game of Thrones. And I know that people are like, fuck, don't say that. But it seemed like we had the thing in the snow, the mission in the snow, and the way that was all filmed looked a lot like something that was shot last year on Game of Thrones, not to do any spoilers there. And then the way that they had the big thing happen in the episode 9 or the penultimate episode, and then having an episode here that moves along the plot towards next season. But the writing in the introspection that The Walking Dead tries to do and tries to pull off isn't equivalent. Again, I compare it more to daytime daytime dramas like not Saint Elsewhere, The Young and the Restless and shit like that. It's not really great dialogue. It's not really great stories. It's not compelling. They can't do this sort of stuff. Exposition, if you want to get away with this crap, it needs to be in an interesting, unique way with cool dialogue and characters we give a shit about. And right now, that is not what The Walking Dead is about. That's not the kind of show they're trying to do.
No, and to me, did anybody else get the strong sense that they were like walking through a Rankin Bass movie? Like, I was ready for that snowman to come out and be like, "Oh, Jesus. Rudolph had a really difficult time that summer, but then he grew up and he was the best reindeer ever was." Like, it looked like they were walking through clearly a set, like, so many times. You know, there's a music video, Phil, by Matas Yahoo, the Jewish rapper.
Yeah, I remember him. Yeah,
it's called Miracle, and he just has like a bunch of Christmas trees with fake snow on it on an ice rink, and that's literally what it looked like. It looked like they had put Christmas trees on a hockey rink and put some. I bet you they did that.
I was thinking the Santa Claus, but very, very, very close. Similar sort of.
Yeah, mine is uber specific for probably people in the chat. But I swear to God, if you look that up, Modest Yahoo Miracle, when he's like skating through the trees, I'm sorry, this episode looked cheap as hell to me. It really did.
And I think maybe they just shot their prop or their design wad in with the heads and shit in the last couple of episodes, and with Michonne cutting down kids and everything they did there, that they just ran out of stuff. And this is something Carmine was saying in the chat last week, and I agree with him, and a couple people were agreeing with this. The Walking Dead is a victim of these 16 episode seasons too. If this storyline that they wanted to tell probably should have been 6 to 9 episodes at best, but instead they shell it out to a 16 episode season, and it seems watered down. We get an episode like this. And again, I'm going to bemuse this point until my head explodes and little candies pop out like my head's a fucking piñata. I don't understand why we don't get to see the outcome of the shit we saw in last week's episode. So you're telling me all the shit that happened, all those fucking deaths that we saw of those characters that I know some people don't care about, we can get into that. But if we're supposed to accept that what Alpha did was this big, huge thing, all of these characters are dead. David's 2 favorite characters, Enid and I've already forgotten her name. Tara is dead.
Doesn't matter.
She never existed. She's wiped up. It never happened, David. It never fucking happened. If we're going to accept that all of that actually fucking meant something, shouldn't we see a real outcome and a real reaction? But instead, we get Dr. Baby Daddy's speech, one of the worst monologues ever on a high-rated television show drama of all time. We get Dr. Baby Daddy's speech last week. And then we get a yada yada into the future of how many months has it been or whatever since this happened. We don't even really know, but we know that it has been some sort of yada yada to the point where the kingdom has fallen, but we don't get to see some immediate reactions, which would have been a little bit better. I personally think, and if this episode, if they wanted to do this as a reaction to what happened, see how the kingdom falls. Show us a I don't know, this is just, I'm thinking out of my fucking ass, and who gives a shit. Give us a weird sort of episode where we just focus on the kingdom, and at the end we start off with Ezekiel sitting in the kingdom in ruins and everything fucked up, and then we get sort of a reverse. There's a Sopranos episode that did this with the FBI stuff, and just sort of like rewind in time and go back and see how everything happened, and then see the kingdom fall and see everyone going their own separate ways, and then have shit that happened in this episode be more of an episode 1 of next season kind of shit. I don't know. I'm just thinking out of my ass here, and even that's, I think, a little bit better than what we ended up getting here for a very disappointing season finale. Even if you've been feeling this season, I know some people in the chat have said, you cried. Yeah, well, this season's okay, Phil and Joe and David, stop shitting on it. I'm sorry we fucked your binky with our logic cocks. I'm sorry our cocks fucked your binky, but it happens, and we can't help but be honest. We're not trying to be negative. I think the last 2 episodes did show some promise in some areas, but this is just a fart in the face for people that have been feeling this season. This is a shit finish, David. Sorry.
Yeah, this is a horrible finish. Yeah, what a way to give your entire audience like blue balls right before season 10. And I'm sorry, with everybody else, I don't give 2 fucks about a Negan redemption arc.
Okay, yeah,
not at all.
No.
And I have no sympathy, and also I had like, how long would I hold a grudge given that I've killed actual people besides like walkers about like, oh, he killed Glenn and Abe? It's like, yeah, but you also killed his men in their fucking sleep. So what, is he going to hate you forever? He's still laughing and smiling at you. Like, I just don't get it. And it is a little bit charming. I'll give him this, the Negan and Judith aspect. Why? Because nobody's nice to children in this show.
Plus,
that's the difference. Like, Michonne's just like, go to your room. I need a minute.
Plus, that
Negan's just like, look at you. You are adorable. My God. What are you doing in the snow? Have 2 jackets. Have 3 jackets.
Oh, Negan, don't swear language, Negan. It's just the cutest fucking thing in the world. I agree. Like, on their scenes, I could, again, this whole episode would have been better if it was all Negan and Judith scenes. I would have been okay with that.
If Judith had run off and it was like Judith encountering like whisperers who had like frozen in the thing, like, and you can still see their human mouth.
It's like Return to Oz.
Or, you know what I really want to see? I want to see in this finale a frozen, dead whisperer who had a zombie mask over a now zombified person. So it's a zombie wearing a zombie.
It would be like a Russian doll situation. I'd be all about that. I'd be all about that. Let's get into the live.
That's weird as fuck, and I approve
it. Let's get to the live chat for a second and read some of the comments we got. Corey Mitchell says, the way they were walking in the blizzard, it looked like Aaron lived in North Dakota. Didn't he live right across the street? What is this, the day after tomorrow? Tari Dad says, I'm pretty sure the kingdom, and I read that as Klingon, I'm pretty sure the Klingons fell because of crumbling infrastructure, not something that easily fixable in the winter. Carol was so damn annoying this episode, says Santovia Major. Mike says, who is the worst actor, Carl or Henry? I think it's an unfair comparison there because we saw Carl do a lot more, but in the short period of time, Henry annoyed me more than Carl. I think Carl had a few moments throughout the series that eating the pudding. There was a couple of moments here and there that I didn't mind Carl. Henry bothered me every moment he was ever on screen.
Hey, you know what I liked with Carl? I have a very specific window. It was before the pudding, because I thought that episode fucking sucked.
Pre-pudding
sucked so much. But the part where he shoots that kid, and then Herschel's like, he gunned that kid down.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, finally, we're gonna get a little badass serial killer Carl. Like what we're supposed to fucking have. And then I saw him looking at Beth. I was like, is he going to knock Beth up? Is that going to happen? Like, is he going to have like he's going to be 12 with a 2-year-old? You know, like, this is going to be fucking fucked up and weird. You know, like, and like, God damn it. You know, Carl, even though it's not his fault, it's like he took getting shot in the eye like a bitch. Like, I don't know. like Rick's been shot and he's like still fighting, and Daryl's fallen on his own arrow and he's still fighting, and he was like, Dad, and he just like passed out and had to be carried, you know, like I don't know, but that Henry kid sucks. So
yeah, that he sucks. I think it's hard not to go with Henry. He just sucks. He just sucks.
But he also looks like, you know, he just got done sucking a fucking lemon for like an hour. Like he's doing. I can't even do it. He's doing the duck face that.
Someone's telling him to just.
Boy. I don't know.
Someone's telling him the act just stand still and shoot and say your lines. Okay.
He's doing his best Blue Steel.
Yes. Yes.
He really was.
Someone told him to do that.
Go back and watch the older Henry's and like first 2 episodes. He's like,
he has to make his.
Hello. It's so stupid.
Jason Voorhees says Carol is the sad sack version of Laurie Strode. I like that. Jackson Sims, well, thank God Henry didn't last that long, so thank God. Thank you, Phil. The reason this was mediocre at best, I don't care how people can say I don't care how people can say it's so good. Question: how the fuck does Alpha and the Whispers survive a winter storm? Oh, Johnny Rico, I was gonna get to that towards the end, but we can talk about that a little bit now. That I love how they show this big blizzard where everywhere else, but somewhere where Alpha and Beta are, it's the warmer climate. Like they missed the snowstorm, or it was months later, or it was before the snowstorm. Who knows when that time period was when we get into
what the fuck?
But it's interesting that we didn't see one bit of snow, but we'll talk about that a little bit more in the end. Was that Alpha scene in the past? It must have, but that's one thing that The Walking Dead doesn't do well when they shift the times where they don't make it obvious. So I guess it doesn't matter. They just wanted to show us our bad guys one more time before the season ends. What's up, Tim F? Great to see Ghost Wolf. What an absolute shit finale, just right. I'm done with this fucking crap. Ghost Wolf, I love it. Bring the fucking shit. And if anyone has anything else they want to add to the discussion, you can call on in at 781-990-8509. Again, it's 781-990-8509. Leave a voicemail or text in that line if I miss your comment in the chat. Thank God. Okay, Alpha and Beta scene where they're having on the beach drinking Coronas and shit. Super Nick is in the live chat. The lovely Miss Super Nick. Every single fan favorite character has turned annoying, including, dare I say, Daryl. Negan and Judith are truly the only reason made the season finale. And I agree with Super Nick. We were talking about that a little bit earlier. Negan and that little girl have good actor little girl chemistry. Whatever that is on screen, it works in Christmas movies. It works in buddy cop movies. Like the two of them, I mentioned this before. They could do some cheesy Disney Channel movie together, and it would be the sweetest shit that was ever in existence. They could do. Yeah,
it's the Grinch. In this episode, it literally was the fucking Grinch. It was like, and Negan's heart grew 3 times.
You're a mean one, Mr. Negan. And yeah, you're right. Negan's heart grew but that's the whole thing. They want the audience's impression of Negan's heart to grow 1 billion-fold in every episode that we see him this season, David. Because next season he's our leader. They're gonna make him our head of the team, of our team family, and it's gonna be led by Negan. And it's when Michonne falls or disappears or whatever, Negan's gonna have to take control of the whole situation, and it's gonna be interesting.
See, here's the thing is they have this problem on the show of them trying to make characters that we dislike or don't give a shit about and try to spin it in a really stupid direction that would throw us through a loop that will hopefully make us go, ooh, I like that direction they went. Because they did the same thing with Father Gabriel and Rosita. It's sort of like, is she just going to sleep with every man and child in the whole fucking town? Like, because in Father Gabriel, he says, I'm Episcopalian, and then he's just slaying ass in the apocalypse. Like, everybody loves that one-eyed black guy, like with the little collar, like more than anything. And I don't get that. And it's like, yeah, and Rosita also slept with Sadiq.
No. To me, when it comes down to Gabriel, he's still the guy that locked his whole congregation in there to die. And I think what was interesting about his character was the despicable nature of him. I could just give a shit less about all of that stuff too. The only thing interesting about that whole section was having having Eugene in there as a weird threesome partner. Wherever Rosita has her boyfriend, that it's like the clause in the contract is Eugene gets to watch. If you watch,
listen, Father Gabriel, I just wanted to let you know that if you do not feel like being that baby daddy's alma mater, you need to let me. Let me step right in, and I'll take care of that baby. And he wrote. Remember, people, in a season about a show about walkers, the apocalypse, and season 9, Eugene, the guy who faked knowing the cure, is now confident enough to have a huge man ponytail, like he's a Dothraki horse lord, and also has enough time on his hands to make a pro and con list for Father Gabriel to decide if he should be with Rosita.
Yeah, he should.
Who's having Sadiq's baby because they were fucking around like her and Spencer.
But David, this is the best use of my time, because if I listed the Constitution of the Humane Society,
hey Phil, I do believe that being a stepdad is within my skill set.
It is true.
I do believe that being a baby dad is within my skill set.
That was perfect, though. That's a perfect one. The writers have no fucking clue what to do with some of these characters, especially canon comic characters. Cough, cough, Eugene. Negan has a soft spot for badass kids. He really had a good thing for Carl, too. Yes, with the Spaghetti Wednesdays. Everyone should die but Daryl and Carol. I love that. Blassie Ford, hip campus, great fucking name right there. Ghost Wolf, I am punting this show. This finale is crap. Really disappointed me. Mandarin fucking crap. Ahmed says, even in the apocalypse, no one wants to fuck the autistic guy. Fear has already had a guy in the wheelchair. Apparently, he was the guy in Galaxy Quest that got into an accident, become paralyzed. But he gets to watch Ahmed. He gets to watch. So I guess we should get into this, David. Otherwise, we're going to be here having to talk about this for a while. So let's not waste any more time in this fucking bullshit. Let's actually get into talking about this frickin' episode. And if I can get to the music. I got to get to the fucking music. I suck here. Here we go. It's time for a recap. Okay. Let's get into this shit. Wait a minute. One more time. Okay. Here we go. Sorry about that, guys. Okay, let's get into this recap of this episode. I think we got a voicemail coming in here soon as well. The best thing about this episode was the Game of Thrones trailer. I totally missed the Game of Thrones trailer. I must have been going to the bathroom when it happened. Double J Jeffries, I would fuck Gabriel's brains out, says Jackson Samuel. Walking Dead Season 10 Negan's final episodes, because JDM needs to get the fuck off this shit show. I was daydreaming about Junan's sex montages during it because it was so boring. It is time for the recap of this particular episode. Okay, so we open up on a radio, and it's the voice of Ezekiel. So let's listen to a little bit of Ezekiel's voice. Let's test our audio here and see how horrible this is tonight. No, and we hear visions.
Finally broke, and we can't fix it.
Oh no.
I kept trying to hold on.
Don't worry, I'm not going to play all of this, guys. So then we see some visuals of it falling apart, some sad. Carol and Ezekiel are in bed, giving each other nothing. We see Lydia and Daryl gives her food, and they need to get people to Hilltop. We see cartoon drawing of Henry, which is a better actor than him. You know, just a cartoon drawing. We see another birthday card from Mummy to Carol with a tiger sticker. She's got Henry's little boxes on the hillside. And we see the Constitution stuff and more of Ezekiel's speech as they roll it up and put it away and blow out a candle as the kingdom is over. Okay, I talked about, and then they start to migrate to head to Hilltop. We talked about this a little bit earlier, David. Would you have wanted to see more of this, or is this fine if they had actually made this an interesting episode? Is more the problem that the stuff that actually happened wasn't compelling enough, or would you have wanted to see more of the kingdom falling apart? Or was this enough for you?
I think it was a weird jump. I don't understand why you couldn't have just explained that more. Instead of having this stupid speech, you could have just seen a visual montage and show and not tell, you know, filmmaking 101. And instead of someone just going like, Though our houses have burned down and our kingdom
But
has
things
been
fall
laid
apart.
to waste, don't worry, I'm just going to keep up this facade on this radio that is very valuable that could break at any moment.
Thou art mortal, David. Thou art mortal. Your kingdom failed because you have shit security at your fair, dumbass. Hearth now, fair radio speakers. Forth now, I am the king. Man, that's terrible.
I'm sorry, even the people at this fucking town should have been like, who did we lose? And then they say the names and they go, oh, okay, so it's not that bad. That's even they should have felt that way. Like, these people had no value. You didn't lose the blacksmith. You lost Donna's mom from That 70s Show. You lost two dudes with cowboy hats. Only one was given a cowboy hat, and he was really the reason they had to let him go is because even he knew that his accent was breaking. Hey, I saw a lot of comments on the clips going, maybe Negan will hear that one of his wives died, and he will have a resurgence of goodwill and joy and want to help Alexandria and Hilltop. And it took all my energy to not go, you are the dumbest cunts I've ever seen. Like, whoever thinks that fucking matters in this story is someone who loved Henry and loved Carl and thinks Enid and Tara are hot and talented. I mean, you are fucking stupid. If any of you have typed that in this chat tonight, I think you're stupid. Because, like, maybe Negan will remember that the woman he had in his harem, his sex camp, has died. So he can't sleep with her. A woman who, by the way, he hasn't slept with for 7 years. And was only one of the wives in season 7, episode 6.
But David, we lost Ozzy
the same
too.
Episode Eugene was introduced to a jar of pickles.
As Corey Mitchell says, you killed Negan's pocket pussy. You're dead now. And we lost Ozzy. Damn it, not Ozzy. Oh my goodness.
See, oh my God. Here's the thing. Fuck, whoever remember, but there's been a lot of people, and I hope they're just trolls, not in your chat, but just in other chats. You know what I mean? Like these, like Make a Path Presents and AMC chat. You know, all these different chats where people are like, man, and Ozzy was such a good character. He was becoming one of my favorites. And I was just like, did you get dropped as a fucking child or recently? Like, why the fuck would you think that?
They're conditioned because they think this is what characterization is, David. It's a shame.
Oh my God. You know, I have more characterization pretending to do Rick Grimes' voice in voicemail on this podcast than Tara ever earned.
Yes.
Like, I have more goodwill.
Yes, your little finger.
People who died.
Your little finger is way better than that. Any of that. So
it's like, hey, what about, man? It really sucks that Polliver on Game of Thrones killed Lamy. Lamy was one of my favorite characters.
Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert,
that
David.
old man who got conked on the head by the mountain? He was one of my favorite characters.
You know what? I bet I get some email that says, Phil, you let David spoil Lamy's death on Game of Thrones. How could you do such a thing? How could you do such a thing? Oh my God!
Spoilers. Sorry.
Yeah, spoilers. I'm kidding.
It only aired 7 years ago.
Get on it. Turn this off and watch that. Okay, so we come back in, and after all that, we see all of our friends. We see Jerry, we see Daryl, we see Lydia, we see Aaron, we see Ezekiel staying behind and closing the doors as he rides off alone, as a sad sack with more words as he leaves the kingdom one last time.
We must be valiant too. All of us. Together.
Good thing he's talking to a kid. Good thing this all ends up that he's telling a story to a child that's probably sitting there going, this kid.
Oh, that's fucking right. Oh, I just fucking remembered that. It ends with him talking.
Right. So maybe I can forgive some of the over embellishing silly nature. He's telling a story to a child. Okay.
Oh, fuck off. She was there. She almost died in the fucking snow.
Yeah, she doesn't like this kind of story. Is this the kind of story the young Miss wants? No, she doesn't want this kind of story.
It's like you might as well cut to Negan on that thing going. Then there was this little badass, Miss Grimes. She went on an adventure to the north to get a dog, and he found her. And oh my god, I can't fuck.
Corey, he came from the highway. He had a cowboy hat. We'll never see his kind again. For the watch!
That comment killed me, Corey.
That was good. That was good. What the fuck's a Nami? What the fuck's a fucking Nami? I hate to say it, but people in the Walking Dead fandom are either that dumb or too much in denial to acknowledge just how bad the writing is. Or both, says Lindsay. Atari Dad says, I like that the teenage girl characters who got killed, but it might have been refreshing to see a teenager in the show didn't act stupid or like an asshole. I have to admit, too, I liked her in a couple of appearances that she had. I forget her name, though, because she wasn't important enough or anything. But I agree. I didn't like how they brought her back just to vote her off the island of the show, so to speak. Santovia Major, $5 for David's rant as requested. Love you both. Big spin of the wheel for Santovia Major. Walking Dead needs to end with Fred Savage telling stories to his kids. This episode further confirms why I think Ezekiel should have been on the head of one of the Pikes. I love Ezekiel, but I don't know where his story is left from there. Just give me one more spin because it landed on spinning.
And Negan's like, and that's how I met your mother.
Kids, this on Spaghetti Tuesday is how I met your mother. Winter can't even.
45-year age difference between us, but she stole my heart.
Let's listen. I think we have a voicemail. Let's listen to a voicemail quickly here before we get back into recapping this exciting season finale of The Walking Dead. Oh no! Oh shit, dude! It's Jason.
Hey, it's the translator for Jason Voorhees. He wanted me to call in and pass along a message, a very important one.
Oh, shit.
Okay, hold on. He's doing something. Oh! What? Oh, it's what he thought about the episode of The Walking Dead? Yeah, okay. He's, what are you doing? Oh, he's stabbing his eyes out with his machete! Oh! Ooh, why are you doing that?
Don't do this on my show. Not on my show. We're gonna get in enough
this
trouble.
More action than we had in the show.
I know. Fuck, that was the most exciting thing that happened tonight in the Walking Dead universe.
He wasn't frozen in place, was he?
Okay, he must have been. It's frozen. Mr. Freeze comes out and goes, "Chill out, guys. I'm going to freeze you."
Time to kick some ice.
Come to kick some serious ice and some bat nipples. Amen, Jason, says Lindsay. Exciting. I heard the spoiler that next season we're going to have an awesome character who shows up in a fedora. I'm a ghost, Phil, says Brian Dodd. I remember reading about a president who met his wife as an infant after her christening. Can't recall who. Exciting stuff. Half this episode I missed because I couldn't hear anything. Would it kill them to speak the fuck up? Though they read in an acting book that mumbling is the best way to deliver lines.
Yeah. The audio guy, he insisted on keeping it on a 3 instead of a 6.
Oh, listen, guys, I'm very excited right now. I'm really showing emotion in this guy.
You got to do the Daryl thing, Phil, where you kind of do this kind of neck bob like that, but you got to go. Yeah.
Yeah. But whatever. This part of the podcast is brought to you by Norman Reedus' acting. Oh, dude. Yeah.
You know what's sad is he looks like Game of Thrones. He's actually giving a decent performance.
He is. I agree. I agree.
McBride and him carried this episode as much as they could.
I was going to say that later, David, and I'm giving him a little shit right now because of some of the way he reads dialogue, but I think he's one of the few people. I think him, as much as I give Jeffrey D. Morgan shit for Negan, I think Jeffrey D. Morgan is a good actor and commands presence on screen. And I think Carol, as a character, we followed her long enough that we actually give a shit about her because we know her as a character. Other people did the building block work for Carol. So when you see Carol have an emotion, you understand it. It comes from someplace, and we see that she's dealing with the loss of a kid. She already lost a kid. We know all of that, so there's some emotion build up, and that she could kind of gear towards siding with Daryl while Ezekiel's going through this nonsense and being a little bit too emotional because she can't be emotional because if she goes in that place, she's stuck in a little K-hole, so to speak, of it, because we've seen that happen to her before. And that's why seeing things that happen on screen rather than being told shit is more fucking effective. No matter what you tell us about some of these other characters, oh, this person, this thing, if you don't see it and experience it with the character on the show, you get you don't get the same feeling of it unless, again, it's extremely good dialogue. Very few shows or very few movies can really pull off expositional dialogue shit. The ones that can do it, Quentin Tarantino can pull it off really, really well. And you have to be exceptionally good at writing dialogue to be able to pull that crap off. And the Walking Dead writers aren't fucking that.
Here's the thing. For me, like in my personal experience, when I write scripts, I think about, obviously the general story where I want to go with it. But after I name the character, which I think is very crucial because, I mean, if you think about it, if you had had a different name your whole life, people would treat you differently, perceive you differently. It does affect who you are as a person. And also certain names carry a certain cadence to it, But after that, I focus on trying to write realistic dialogue for them. And I base them off of a person who really exists. And this is dialogue that is manufactured by 7 or 8 people who have no idea how human beings interact and are not talking to each other. This is like the writers are writing the script by passing 2 words at a time on pieces of paper to the main guy at the head of the table, and then he has to make a sentence out of whatever words he got. And it's like, this is not how people talk. This is just not how they interact. Like, honestly, when she was like this, go ahead and just do it or whatever, Carol should have been like, oh, fuck off. And just be like, we don't have time for this shit. I am freezing my tits off.
Yeah. And
furious. Just going like, you're killing us. You're wasting time.
And to a certain extent, when you're dealing with a show like The Walking Dead in a universe like this, you've created these type of situations. I think for me, on a show like this, the number one goal isn't even necessarily having these realistic interactions. It's being just an entertaining show. It's never like The Walking Dead, I think, personally, at its strongest points, was ever too deep. It's that it could balance some sort of real, what would I do in that situation, mixed with some just good, entertaining, fun dialogue with characters. I think what made those early seasons great when Glenn meets Rick, calling him a dumbass, and that back and forth stuff, it creates a sense of fun to it to a certain extent. Rick and Shane's interaction all through those first seasons isn't really super antagonistic. It's more humorous antagonistic with back and forth. And Shane created a lot of humor to that, and the Herschel character eventually when it came on. And there's a sense of, through the madness of it all and through the crazy shit that happened, there was some sense of fun to the dialogue and to the writing choices. I think that has all gone. They haven't been able to capture that again. And I think that's one of the bigger problems, that most of the season, even when it's been good, has been dull.
Yeah.
And it's a shame. Super Nick says both Negan and Daryl are amazing characters, but Negan has taken my fan love from Daryl because he hasn't developed as a character at all. He's the same person and talks just as little. Jason Voorhees says, let's be real. These small-ass groups mean nothing compared to the size of the Commonwealth. We'll have to see what that means next season. If only Alexandria was in Germany. Lots of furnaces there. Too soon, I'm evil. What do you expect humans? So in the entire community of Alexandria, there was only one working fireplace. You telling me that? Mike, dun-dun-dun, shh. But Daryl has a dog now and a new poncho. That's a lot of development for this show. You are on point. By the way, did anyone else think the ending to Telltale Walking? I won't get into that. So let's get back into this episode and try to find something exciting here that happened. So good luck, Phil. So we come back in and we're looking at fields with our groups walking and Michonne's talking. And again, this is where I said, oh my God, is this going to be a complete exposition episode? Listen to this shit.
Security resolutions?
Everyone's still reeling. Between Jesus, Tara, and the others we lost.
David, that is it right fucking there. When you have dialogue like, everyone's still reeling for what happened, and you didn't show what happened really. And you explain that everyone's having these horrible reactions to Tara, blah blah blah. But you're saying this and not showing it to us. It's horrible.
Yeah, I mean, I would even trade this dialogue for that. I don't know what you would call it, but I guess hindsight exposition, where it kind of goes like this, like somebody dies and somebody just goes, yeah, I can't believe we lost whatever that girl with the red hair's name was. and
Abby?
somebody kind of looks up and kind of goes like this, like, that was my wife. Like, I would rather that, because that's dialogue that at least creates tension and angst amongst people, because people really do that in real life, where people talk about something or make some kind of crass joke or say something flippant to try to cope with the situation and end up hurting somebody's feelings, or, cause an argument or a fight. But there is none of that. It's like these people don't argue amongst each other. Why? Because we're all from the hilltop. It's like, you know what? There would still be people, having horrible breakups, getting not divorced, but like losing children, people dying, their dad died a natural death. Well, good for you. But it's still incredibly sorrowful. And all of these were young people, which should make it all the more tragic. But these people are just like, we skipped past the grieving process entirely. And now it's just, even the character in the show, was it Yumiko? She didn't even say all of those people's names. She goes, Tara and like the other ones we lost. Like, even they don't give a shit. Even the other characters are going like, I don't fucking remember. The guy with the hat. The guy with the cowboy hat. And all the other ones we lost. Like, I mean, seriously, they are just like, it'd be like them talking about like Tyrese, like when Tyrese died and Sasha was like walking and kind of going like this. Yeah. And the guy with the beanie. Like, wait, what? Wasn't that your brother? And there's like,
you mean basically what we got with Maggie saying that Beth died? Oh, and the girl, and then Beth died. And we got a couple of Maggie references tonight as well. A little couple of Maggie stabs I forgot to mention earlier, I think. Okay, so Santovia says, I'm still tripping. Judith ran after Daryl's dog. Daryl never moved. Negan ran after Michonne's kid. Michonne didn't even call her name. What the actual fuck? Abigail says the Lydia and Carol tension was so dumb. We all knew Carol wasn't going to kill her and that Lydia wasn't going to die. It never was going to happen. Cattigat, the only good thing in this episode was Negan stirring shit up at the cabin. This episode gave David type 13 diabetes just to give David in the live chat a little love too. People being sick of Michonne's bullshit. I'm so over her. What the fuck happened? Said Super Nick. They know the actress is leaving, so they're starting to spite right her. Okay, so we come back in. Then we see some walkers, and there's some discussion. Are they whispers watching us? And Daryl and Lydia are friends now, and he's the one protecting her like Henry would have wanted. And then we then we see some cool looking walker on the ground, just like a torso. And again, if I'm talking about the stuff I liked in this episode, as I said right off the bat, I thought visually the way they made the walkers look in the snow was pretty decent. I agree with David about the sets factors, but I think they continue in general to make the walkers look interesting and to have a different sort of setup for them looked kind of neat. And
I have one addendum here, and I know we'll get to it, but I just want to say it now, is tell me it wouldn't have been better if they come around a little cove to find the lake, and guess what? In the lake, Game of Thrones fashion, it's a bunch of walkers that have been frozen into the lake, but it's like 100, and they have to walk through it.
Dude.
Like parting the Red Sea. And they're having to slay them, and they're just spraying blood in both directions as they kind of finagle their way through it. That way they can still technically grab, but they're kind of frozen, so you can hear them creaking, kind of like, creepy wooden stairs, sound effects. It would be way more tense, and at least it's a fun set piece where you can go, that scene on the pond. But this is literally where they go, they are, remember this, guys. Holy fuck. King Ezekiel had a walker come up from underneath his feet. Everybody had walked on this same patch, and just because plot armor had to be weakened for a second, they just literally go, where does the walker come from? Up from underneath him.
But not enough to make any of the walkers actually bite anybody anymore. I mean, Especially Daryl is at one point in the episode has a walker on top of him again, just not biting at all, just waiting for the other character to kill it, just waiting for someone to come behind and kill the walker, or to have Daryl be able to shimmy shake his way over to a piece of ice to be able to stab the walker.
That's the tension that we have in a finale, folks. Is Daryl has to get an ice.
Do you know what our tension is? Is the fucking radio thing at the end? That's why everyone's gonna be talking about who's the voice on the radio. Was it Maggie? Was it Rick? Was it Jadish? Was it someone we don't know yet? I don't know.
You know, Topher Grace. If you
is it Topher Grace from that '70s show?
No,
is it them?
You need to make a fan edit if you like The Walking Dead and cut Jar Jar Binks style shit out of it and just go, here's the stuff that you needed to know, and get rid of characters that serve no purpose. You know, because
Misa vote for no contest, David. What?
Here's what's sad is that they knew that if they didn't do the head thing last episode, they would have lost people. And they knew that by doing it the episode before the finale, it would break form, break the typical,
do the Game of Thrones thing.
People want to watch going, holy shit, the finale is going to be even worse.
Yeah.
Because it's the calm before, and then the storm is not going to be a literal fucking storm, you idiots. It's going to be a metaphorical shitstorm that they are going to encounter. It's going to be them walking through a herd run by the Whisperers. It's going to be something insane.
But David, right inside the wording room. But everyone's been craving for snow in the Walking Dead universe. So let's not worry about a story in this final episode. Let's just give them like a scene, a feel. This episode is going to be about feel. You know, the Revenant and Game of Thrones last season, they all had these snowy scenes with people marching through the snow. And it would be really cool if we did that on our show. It would be really awesome. So let's force a scenario, and we'll yada yada some time to the winter, and we'll just have a snow episode. Wouldn't it be cool?
Yeah, also, guys,
that's almost exactly how it probably happened.
It hurts my brain how much I agree with you, Phil, that the snow should have been done back in like season fucking 3.
Yeah, this should have been done already.
That was a literal year's worth of time that they had been living in this world. But to, like you said, what did you do for the last 10 winters?
Yada fucking yada. Yeah, the winter happened. The winter happened.
That's your answer, but that's not an answer, you know. And for professional writers to go, yeah, well, let's save that. Let's keep saving stuff. It's like, you know what? If you keep holding on to these ideas and you keep saving it, going, next season it's going to be big. Next season, next season's going to be big. They did that from season 6 to season 7 to season 8 to season 9, and it's like you are going to run out of stuff. And what happens when you don't have anything and you waited so long that your show got canceled or you lost all your viewership?
And Lindsay says, I kind of disagree, David. If people can stick around after Rick's departure, they'll stick around regardless of who dies. I don't think AMC has anything left to lose. And
oh, they do. You have no idea. You know all those people who were saying if Daryl dies, we riot back in like season 4? You mean the only people left?
The people that are saying The Walking Dead's back this season is really what those people are. Atari Dad says Gimple claims he's been pushing for snow, but AMC kept saying no. Super Nick says, so the sex with a zombie considered necrophilia, or is it just considered taboo because they're technically alive? Asking for a friend. Is sex with a zombie considered necrophilia, David?
Well, it won't mind.
How soon did the body die? Is it still warm, or is it like does it look all decomposed? I think it depends. What kind of bone are we talking about? Is it able to actually have a bone?
Phil, all of this talk about sleeping with dead bodies is really getting in the way of my snow fetish. So, if we could move on to
okay, I don't want to give you literal blue balls. So I don't want to go there. I don't want to. The snow can be cold. We'll we'll curb that question for a later date, Miss Super Nick. And great to see No Poochie in the live chat. Great to see 1998 champions Cadigan, Big E, Ellie, Adrian, Jason, Jay Ski, Abigail, Ronnie Rollins, all of our good friends here for this season finale of The Walking Dead. And David and I loved this episode. This was one of the best episodes, best season finales of all time. It's the best season finale of all time. No, I'm sorry, I'm kidding.
I just sent in my life savings to AMC because that's how thankful I am for all of this joy that they've given. And I'm hoping they can use that money to bring my favorite character, Tara.
Joy. Okay, so we see some walkers, and there's discussion if they're whispers or not. Okay, so blah, 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 cool looking torso. Carol gives Lydia the fuck you fuck, and then Daryl and Carol have one of their many conversations.
No one else did. She's a good kid.
Every time I look at her, all I see is him.
Okay, but I'm falling asleep a little bit here because this is a tough show to go back and listen to dialogue, and I only do it so I don't really have to write the dialogue down, and we can get a feel of what this scene was all about.
This would be fine if it was fucking winter in season 3, episode 4.
I've said this before in other episodes, and Joe likes to laugh at me about this, but I'll say it anyways again here because Joe isn't here right now, even though he's gonna show up when you least expect it. Joe's picture I was gonna see Joe just pops on screen right there. He's like, wait a second, here we go. He'll pop up there. But this is one of those scenes that if this was in a better episode, sort of a beeline of a better main plot of an episode, this would be a good scene. But as this being one of the best scenes of the episode, it can't carry a season finale. This is a good sort of, I like seeing Daryl and Carol interact, but again, it's something that things that would have been better yesterday, that we had such a break after having Carol and Daryl's the lead up, the main progression of their storyline together that they had to a certain point reached a pinnacle, and then they sort of cut you off from it because they're like, there's only, we don't want to like figure out where we go next with this, and they had them just disappear from each other, and then it's awkward back together, and now we're getting more progression with this, and it's not organic.
Yeah, and this is like what I wanted to jump in and say is this show has a big problem with shooting things for the teaser and not following through with the season or the episode. Because every single thing, I mean, look at what AMC does. What do? Do they talk about how great the episode was? No, they go talked about scene. Because that scene was the whole teaser the week before.
Yep, and
they shoot things based on the advertising, based on what they can put in the commercial. Does anybody else see the fucking commercial where it literally was, it fades back up, Walking Dead, Jeffrey Dean Morgan's in the snow, Judah, and then it goes, Walking Dead will be back in a minute.
Yep, they've been doing those all season. It's fucking ridiculous.
What the fuck is this a soap opera?
Yep.
Is this My Stories?
Yep.
One day at a time. This week, Negan goes out in the snow for a wonderful stroll with Judith.
It means, but why is it on AMC now? And this is, you know what makes me think, or just passing thought, just because I lick Vince Gilligan's labia. It makes me even appreciate more what the Breaking Bad and the Better Call Saul guys have to deal with AMC as their producer when they said to Breaking Bad at the end, right when they started to get a big fan base. You know what you should do is you should make 2 more seasons of Breaking Bad. We only want to make 1. No, you should make 3 more seasons of Breaking Bad. We can get the Breaking Bad action figures. We can get Breaking Bad after Bad. We can do that every week if you want to do that.
See, with shows like The Sopranos, for example, because I just started watching that Phil all the way through instead of just clips, and I'm in the middle of like season 3 right now.
Oh, lucky bastard! You must be loving it. Have you got to the Pine Barrens episode yet?
No.
Okay. Let me know when you watch Pine Barrens, because we could have a fun discussion about that episode.
But Christopher's a made guy, and Moltisanti's a made guy. Quick here for. But anyways, The Sopranos would use enough episodes to tell the story properly. There's not like an episode of Sopranos you go, that was kind of weak. Like, it's just quality
Yep.
television. There's something, there's a purpose to everything.
Yep.
I mean, when they show something, they, you know, there's the theory in horror. It's like, if you show a knife on the table, you got to use it, you know? And so The Sopranos shows things and it seems small, but they fucking call that shit back. The next episode, later that episode, they show it again. I mean, even stupid stuff like the phone. And you go, why are they showing the phone? And then the phone rings and his mother died. You know what I mean?
Yep.
You know, it doesn't necessarily have to be a weapon to be used like a weapon for the audience.
Oh.
And
yeah, a lot of that just comes from having a good head at the table that gives a shit so much about the production that they keep a close eye on that. And The Walking Dead, at a point in time, did have that in the first season, but since then it has been turned into a machine that is run by committee or run at a head. So it's more about, as you said, putting out these big moments that you can put in a trailer, or big moments that you can have people talking about, oh, that moment with the heads, or who's on the radio, or this or that. Again, they could have done anything. They could have had a fucking baboon shitting on a snare drum through most of this episode and had ended it with the radio call, and that's what they wanted to do. That and having Negan save Judith in the snow so they could make Negan seem like a good guy again. Everything else that happened this episode was superfluous, that didn't need to really happen, and it was extra shit to pad out this time because, again, as you said, this season, or I said and we said in different ways, The Walking Dead is too bloated in these 16 episode seasons or even these 8 episode story arcs. And okay, you introduce all these disposable fucking characters that we don't care about. As David was saying earlier, have a whole river or an ice bed of zombies frozen in the water that are reaching up like traps in a game of Pitfall, and have a lot of our characters actually die in that volley, and have this whole season end with just with Daryl and Carol and whoever's left in our main group, have most of that group die. Who cares? Some of these characters are expandable, so who gives a shit? So have some really huge traumatic events happen. But
the last interesting thing I feel that happened to King Ezekiel was they had that shot. It was an aerial shot of his people, and he was doing that "and yet I smile" speech that drove me nuts. And
yet
it cut, and he goes, you know, we've already won, and it cuts hard, and it's a pile of dead bodies of his men who got mowed down by the saviors when they had that 50 caliber, and they all had these massive holes and their arms blown off and everything. And then he had to literally fight off his own people who he had led to the slaughter, basically. And I was like, that's the last interesting thing that happened.
Yeah.
To King Ezekiel. I don't give a shit about him and Carol. Nobody's buying that. We all know that what you're trying to do, AMC. Now you're trying to tease that Daryl and Carol will get together. It's like,
now that's where you get into the in threat of real drama and real storytelling. We're gonna go we're 90 motherfucking 90210, and who's going with who and who's gonna fuck who, and let's get these people together. You know, that sort of bullshit that I think is just lazy, especially, and has no place on a show like The Walking Dead. I don't think that is not as a primary focus to be is an excuse for a lack of story focus. If it's a byproduct of a storyline, then I do have no problem with romance being introduced into a storyline if it feels natural and feels as a byproduct of more interesting shit that happened, like with Rick, with that girl he met and when he got to Alexandria, and he eventually ended up shooting the husband and shit like that. But like him getting involved with that girl was natural to what was going on in the storyline on the show, so it didn't seem forced that he was getting into a love situation, for instance. Whereas now it seems that they're pairing off, where it's let's get couples together and let's fill in the void of a lack of shit to do and a lack of interesting aspects of storylines to happen, and get to the what's the next war that we're gonna have happen, yada yada yada, to the war. Let's fill in the gaps with romance.
Was it Blasey Ford's Hippocampus?
Great name.
They were saying, I thought they were teasing Daryl and Death Chick before.
Me too.
And it's like, yeah, they're teasing. They are doing the little finger speech that everybody hated from season 7, where he goes, fight everyone, everywhere, every direction, in your mind, in reality. eat everything on your plate, wear every coat in your closet. You know, like that speech where he just says, be ready for everything anywhere at any time. And they are literally doing that because they are waiting to hear what the fans want. And if they tease every single possibility, then they can just go with it.
Yep. Dude, 100%. Because they are so fan servicey and they want to make it, they want to fill in the snow here. People have been clamoring for the snow. We finally got the fucking snow. Yeah, Gimple's been trying to do it for years. AMC has said no. He's been fighting the good fight. And here we go.
Do you think that Tara, Enid, and Henry was an accident?
They
didn't take a mold of every single fucking person on that show's head.
Henry, we definitely did.
He did. I know it. I don't have to see any behind the scenes extra bullshit. They took everybody at the fucking kingdom and Alexandria's fucking head, even Daryl's probably, and Michonne's, and made a fucking mold of it just to see what the people would say. And then they heard everybody was going, Tara sucks donkey balls. Henry taught her how to suck donkey balls. And then they just fucking slicing them off. They're like, you know what? Fuck it. Cut all the dead weight. We can use that money later to make snow.
Atari Dad says, apparently AMC and BBC America are sister channels. BBC America did the back in 1 minute thing throughout the last season of Doctor Who. So we can thank BBC America for this fucking bullshit going on right now. Funny how the CW can make good seasons with 16 episodes and AMC is struggling with it. I don't know how much I want to blame AMC proper as much as their influence that they have and how much the ear that they have of the Walking Dead's writing staff. Ultimately, this is still the same channel that has Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul on it. So you have to say that AMC probably will feed to your most disgusting instinct, and because The Walking Dead is dealing with a #1 show or such a high ratings thing, they have more hands in the pudding in it all. But ultimately, I think it has to come down to the Walking Dead's writing staff, not AMC.
And here's the thing: is everybody? I know it's been a while since we bitched about this, and now everybody's on. You know, everybody was like, "Fuck Scott Gimple," now everyone's like, "Kang's doing a really great job." And here's the thing: she is undeniable.
The show looks better.
Help make the show better. But guess what? Scott Gimple, they created a position for him to still be above her and still have an outreach over everything. So he gets still final say. He gets final cut on what Angela King gets to finally put through. So even if she's the main showrunner and she writes every fucking episode and she has a hand in everything, guess what? He gets to say, reshoot that. I don't want that.
That was a PR move at best. That was a PR move at best. She is on his team. She's still catering to his agenda. And as you put it, he has final cut on the situation. So
George Lucas, fun fact for you people, is in what was it, The Phantom Menace? Everybody on set was kind of shitting on George. Everybody kind of goes, I don't think George knows what the fuck is up, and I don't really want to listen to George because he puts his hand in every cookie jar. You just can't stop himself. And so you know what George Lucas did, everyone? He brought in his old buddy Steven Spielberg to be on set so that he could bring him into rooms and go, Steven said the exact thing that he wanted. He used Steven as a patsy because he knew that people didn't trust his opinion. So he said, listen to Spielberg. It's what he wants. And then guess what? It was fucking George's ideas.
He should have had the fucking balls to just have Steven direct it and do what he does well and sit in a room and give people ideas and have better directors dictate them, because everything that George is, he's a horrible director.
Yeah, but here's the thing. Scott Gimple suffers from the same thing, which is, this actor, to get, Sophia, she actually has a brother that looks just like her. We should get him to do it instead of just casting a fucking child who is actually a good actor. It's like, I'm sorry, people. I don't know if you've forgotten, but, the Sixth Sense kid, Macaulay Culkin, there used to be good child actors.
Yeah, and, I mean, there still are. Look at Game of Thrones.
With Hook, was full of good child actors. And you're telling me you can't find one? You just wanted to use her fucking brother who wasn't even an actor? He had no desire to be an actor. You just wanted to use him because he looked like her? You idiots.
You almost went De Niro there with that. You fucking idiots. You fucking idiots.
Yeah, I know. Fucking motherfuckers.
You motherfuckers. And you fuck me and the fuck me. Is the finale at least better than the fear? People have to answer that. Chance. Jason says, where does this show go for season 10? Whispers. And then God, no, please. Fucking Jesse. Glad she got bit. Super Nick says, Daryl and Maggie's sister was a nice organic romance and then they killed her. Daryl hasn't been laid in 8 years. He's a fucking monk. I want to put my hands in your pudding, says Atari Dad. Hey, Atari Dad. I'll see you soon. See you after the podcast. The only thing Kang improved this season is the pacing, and that's not by much. I will say this: she's fantastic PR compared to what Gimple was promoting this show. Like I said before, Gimple was the anti-vaccine parent, and Kang is the one who has to keep her child on life support because of Gimple's irresponsible parenting, says Atari Dad. I stopped watching Fear season 4.
Even a broken clock is right twice a day.
I love that
and
expression.
So even Gimple can pick something that Angela Kang wrote and go, that is fucking brilliant. I love what you did there. I love this tension. Let's fucking do it. And green light it all the way through. So you go, man, this fucking episode was fucking great. Like, she just nailed it on every front. But then she writes something and he just wants to tweak just a little bit. Just, it doesn't seem like much.
Just a little bit.
Let's have a scene where Carol and the fucking girl talk.
So we see...
While everybody is freezing to death, while Judith is freezing to death, they have time to take a vacation in the hut and have a little, like, kill me, kill you, kill me, kill you. Like,
and she goes and gets the dog. So we see Snow and Alexandria for the very first time, and we see Gabriel and Rosita and Eugene, and we talked about the scene a little bit earlier, but let's listen to a little bit of this fucking... You know what?
We could keep each other warm.
No, I'm not going to listen to any of this. They get their things together, and they got to basically this scene is in place to rationalize why they have to let Negan out to go save Judith later. So and we have to see these characters for a second here just to remind us that they exist and give Eugene his Eugene moments, to bring in his pie chart and do Eugene for a second. And they got to let Negan out so he doesn't freeze. So back to our group on the move. Daryl shoots some road walkers and goes and checks them out. Ezekiel comes to, Lydia watches weirdly and then disappears into the midst. Then Daryl makes sure it's a walker, and Ezekiel is like, listen, Daryl, buddy, when we get to Hilltop, could you kind of like piss off and give me a chance with Carol again? Because, you know, you being around is just like fucking up my shit, dude. It's fucking up my shit.
Really had it all together.
Yeah. Could you get the fuck out of here? And and more or less, that's what he says. More or less, that's what you say, Ezekiel.
You giving much thought to your plans after this?
No. What?
The past few months have been difficult for Carol and I. I'm hoping for a fresh start with her at Hilltop.
Good luck to that. Yeah, have fun.
And it'd be easier if it was just us.
Oh.
Wait a second. Here's the best part of his performance in the episode. Listen, folks.
You think that's what Carol wants?
Carol wants the same thing I do. To hold our son again. Shit. I'm not trying to be the bad guy here, man. I just want to get back a piece of what I lost. What we lost. After everything, you think you could give me that?
I don't know, man.
Sorry, I've got to just say, when he drops the Shakespeare fucking act, he's compelling as shit.
Dude, I agree. He has such a good voice. Like the actor, when he drops any part of that and he just gets to be like a real person, I am suddenly engaged by what this guy has to fucking say.
When he broke and he told Carol, he's like, fake it till you make it.
Baby. Yeah, it's like, yeah.
I dig this dude. He's bold. He's a bullshitter, but he's got a personality that I can get behind. And then I thought when Carol got with him, he was going to drop that. And then he just kept it going because she said, like, you know, people need a king here. You know, like they made Carol say that, and it didn't. That was so out of her character.
Yeah, and then she's calling herself she's calling herself queen and shit too, and it's just weird. That's just fucking weird shit.
But the only good thing that they're doing there is that she clearly doesn't like doing it. She doesn't like this play pretend bullshit, and that's, you can feel it a little bit, but that's only because of the actress's ability to convey subtlety.
Yeah, because she like
the shitty dialogue that they're giving her.
100%.
to give undertones, subtle undertones,
Yeah,
to make it seem like I know as the actor that this doesn't match Carol.
Yeah, that I'm drinking the Kool-Aid, but I still think this is kind of bullshitty. And
I'm drinking the Kool-Aid, but I'm actually spitting it back in the cup and throwing it over.
Exactly, and I think we've all been in those situations where you're with a certain significant other that puts you in situations you wouldn't normally be in, interacting with a different group of people that you don't necessarily like or whatever, and you have to be there, be cool in that situation, but still be like, yeah, these people are fucking idiots. And I think Carol's does that well and pays the respect of the situation well, as you should, but while still being true to her own. Yeah, this is a lot of bullshit going on right now. Lindsay in the live chat says, Eugene got robbed of his radio subplot. I will scream this from the motherfucking rooftops. At least he's more subdued this season when he does the king talk. A little bit. Yes, he is, but he still definitely does a king voice compared to what his normal voice is.
When he, back in that episode where he lost Shiva and he snapped and he said, I'm just some guy, I was like, finally, he's going to drop it. He's going to drop it, and he's going to express real emotion and use his real voice, and you're going to actually see there's a lot more to this guy than this stupid facade. This king facade is this thin veneer for the, the fucked up cracked tooth beneath it, and I really was hoping for something like that.
Yeah.
And they just pissed on it.
That's because you were hoping for a show that gave a shit about real character progression instead of interesting scenarios to that fit whatever they want to plot out. It's not a natural character progression, which should have gone with that character. That character learned from his mistakes, moved on, realized that a level of non-bullshit happened. I'm not a king. We're all just people here, and you allow me to be like in charge. That's great, but we all love each other. Whatever, like whatever he should have said or whatever way he could have handled it, but being more of himself. But instead, he just took on a slightly less Shakespearean king persona.
Here's what you needed. Is like Jerry back with the King Ezekiel thing. He drops the act. Jerry's depressed, because he needed someone to follow, and he liked the king persona. He felt like he was a guard and useful, and he needed that escapism. But so he drops that act. But then at that moment when he's instead of Jerry going, "Thank you, Your Majesty," and he goes, "Why?" He's like, "For being such a cool dude." Instead of that, he should have been talking normal to Jerry, like he's dropped the whole king facade, and then when he sees that Jerry is losing hope, he just goes, "Come on, Jerry. The house is not dead yet," or whatever, and then use it to invigorate him and save him in that moment. But after 6 fucking years, I'm sorry, the moment I heard that, I'd be like, do you really fucking talk like that? Like, you walk into this town, and for 6 years, you don't have any problem with this guy going, "Ha ha ha! Huzzah! The fair and the bazaar! Put my house sigil up on the masthead!" Like,
House Shiva. House Shiva will have its revenge in this life or the next. Super Nick says, I agree, David. His scene with Carol where he tells his backstory was definitely one of his best. Lindsay says, I don't understand why Ezekiel is still maintaining that facade. The mask slipped off when he got defeated and lost Shiva last season.
right.
Absolutely. And Ellie says, Gimple did a CYA in choosing Kane to promote as a showrunner. If a show went down, he could blame Kane. If the show goes up, he can get the glory because he promoted Kane and he still has that God position. So Gimple knows what he's doing. He's in charge. He is Freddy Krueger and everyone else is Philip that gets thrown off at the beginning of Nightmare on Elm Street 3.
You guys got another thing coming if you think that Rick Grimes movie or whatever is going to be written by fucking Angela Kang.
Or I'm hoping I'm hoping it's a completely new creative team that they bring in.
I hope they get fucking Quentin Tarantino.
Again, I'm so happy that Quentin Tarantino is writing a Star Trek movie. All you Star Trek people that aren't excited about this can go fuck yourselves. I'm so fucking excited that he's going to be the best Star Trek movie ever. And I don't give a fuck. It's going to be awesome. So yeah, let's bring him on to write the fucking Rick Grimes movie. I'm okay with that.
Yeah. And by the way, Atari Dad, you're right. I think assuming Atari Dad's talking about me, I did actually live very close to Kari Payton, the guy who plays King Ezekiel. And when I was out here about, I don't know, 10 months ago or something like that. I was walking my dog, and I had already passed him once before while he was walking his little kid to school, or his kids to school. But he was out with his like white wife, and they were standing in front of their apartment building and waiting for like an Uber or something to show up. And he didn't have the wig on, so he was just bald and had the beard with the white in it. You know what I mean? And my dog comes running over really happy because he just loves people. And he goes, ha, this one is full of life. Like he said it like almost like I had wished it. And then like as I left, I was like, you know, Your Majesty. And then I left. And he kind of was like, yes, you know, or whatever, and went back to it. So yeah, the guy is theatrical. I get that. But that's not how he really talks. Corey Payton did the voice for like, I think it was like the Teen Titans, Cyborg. He's also done a lot. He's done a lot of anime movies and like comic book movies and stuff like that, like Black Static or something like that. Like he's got an amazing voice. This guy has an amazing commanding presence. And if you got to hear his real voice and King Ezekiel speaking in that voice, that's a king.
Yeah,
that's a badass. That guy, I would follow that guy into battle because he sounds like he knows his shit. This king facade, I would never follow that crap because I would think that the guy was out of his fucking mind.
Oh my goodness. Couple more things in the live chat. Teen Titans Cyborg said broke, and that's who that is what he wrote. They need to get Seth Hoffman to write the Rick Grimes movies. He was one of the best writers they had on the show for sure. Broke wants to hear an alien say the N-word since they're doing a Star Trek movie. Pulp Trek. And yes, I'll talk about that again as it gets closer if it actually happens. For those of you that haven't heard much about it, all I'll say is he says the movie he wants to do will be influenced by the Star Trek Next Generation episode Yesterday's Enterprise, which if anyone's seen that episode, I think that could be an interesting sort of thing. And I think if he loves Star Trek, it's really exciting that he's going to want to work on that. And that's what I'm hoping with some of these Rick Grimes movies or these other Walking Dead projects, that you can get unique creative teams that are excited about Walking Dead and have always wanted to work on it, and that they'll let a new creative team come in and do their own thing in these movies. I hope they're not super micromanaged in the way that if they probably are going to be, where it's Gimple and his people just kind of putting together a movie.
And also, you know, episodic like television is far different than feature films.
Yep.
Because if you have television writers on feature films, it's going to feel like a soap opera that lasts an hour and a half. I mean, it's pretty apparent when you watch movies, if you watch enough of them and you watch daytime television and all that stuff, or primetime television, when you see a movie that is written by daytime people. For example, movies of the week. Anytime you've ever seen a Lifetime movie and you go, God, this is fucking weird and cheesy and it's got Randy Quaid and I don't fucking get it. You know, like, it's that was probably written by television writers. They wrote a movie, but it played on it was made for television. So it's made to seem like a soap opera that has, you know, 25 commercials in it over the course of the next 2-3 hours.
Do you think that's what the Rick Grimes movie is going to be like? You think it's going to be like, oh, it's going to feel like a giant episode like the Prison Break movies were, where it felt like a gigantic episode of Prison Break?
I am praying to science that it doesn't, okay? You know, it's...
When you say praying to science, do you mean the Lord Zeno, or you just mean Albert Einstein?
I mean our galactic
overlord. Yes. Okay, good. That's what I wanted you to believe, because I didn't want you to be a deflector or anything like that, David. So.
Oh, a suppressive person?
Yeah, don't be an SP, David. Don't be an SP.
Be an SP, kids. Stay in school.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so I guess we should get back to this episode. So get to this stupid part that happens here, where, again, because I don't care about Lydia, maybe if this happened with a character I cared more about, it would be an interesting parallel here. But Lydia dealing with Henry's death, I could give two shit heels less about. Lydia heads into the woods and looks around. She heads towards a walker that's stuck in the ice, and she steps to it and starts giving it the fleshy part of her arm. And she's like leaning in for the walker death situation, and Carol walks up and sees what's happening and gives her the "what the fuck, you're an idiot" look, and they walk away. Very stupid. So then they head to the sanctuary for shelter, and we'll talk a little bit more about that scene and about their interactions when we get to the Carol and her discussion later in the episode. But basically, I'll say this: David, did you ever think that Carol was going to kill this girl? At any point in time in this episode, did you believe any of the tension? Was that one of the things we were supposed to feel tense about this episode? Was Carol going to seek revenge on Lydia? Were we supposed to feel that? And we just couldn't pick up on it? Like, I don't know.
I think it would have actually been very nice if they had done that.
But I
did not for 1 second they would.
No, they didn't, and they didn't.
Well, it didn't feel like it was going to happen at all. I thought, like, I said, if this scene will get me if they do only one thing. There's only one option to win me over for this stupid excuse of a scene.
Sorry.
Is you have to have Carol get teary-eyed and do it's not your fault from Good Will Hunting moment. Give her a hug, and then while hugging her, stab her right in the back of the head.
Knife to the back of the head.
I think that would have won me over. I think that would have won a lot of people over, where people go, because here's the thing. The character arc that Carol has gone through has shown her go from a weak housewife with an overly protective mother because her husband was abusive and all that, to a woman who could stand on her own 2 feet, who was tough, who could handle herself, who would even put down a child if it meant protecting the people that she cares about. And that would be fitting to her character, what I just said.
And someone that could go full Rambo and kill multiple amounts of people if she had to do it.
Because here's the thing. That is a beautiful connection from season 1 to season 9. To have her have a motherly look like she did when she lost Sophia in the woods. And she's like, my little girl is lost in the woods. And like that kind of sorrow immediately followed by vengeance, anger, and payback. Where she consoled her, and the last thing she saw, just like the look at the flowers. It's a look at the flowers scene.
Yep.
It's a give me a hug, I'm here for you, stab. And that's the last thing she heard. You know, like,
this girl is too dumb to live. I will give her what she wants right now. And that would have been a very interesting moment if she walked up behind her while she was leaning into the walker and she's like, okay, and kicked her into it or something. Like, just walked over and was like, just kicked her and elbowed her into her. Do you want this? Go take it.
Even, tell me you wouldn't have preferred this scene. She's doing that. She sees Carol, and Carol just goes, do it.
Yeah.
And then she's just like, what? She goes, do it. If you want to go, do it.
No one's stopping you.
If I fight you, I'll fucking leave you here. Like that kind of thing where you kind of just go like, Jesus. Like Carol's actually laying down the fucking law. Like, I don't give a shit. Nobody here's going to miss you. You know, if you don't want to live, then we don't want to protect you. We don't want to waste the time and energy to protect you.
Yeah.
And then her have a discussion as to why she wants to live to make it, I don't know, more interesting, as opposed to them going to have a
again, David. You're this interesting word you're bringing up. That's not the kind of show they're trying to do, man. Interesting. Come on. You can't do commercial breaks with interesting, man. So too bad Luke didn't roll up in a tauntaun and offer them some sea cow tit milk. Adrian, great to have you here. Scientologists will actually deny that they believe in Lord Zeno is real. In fact, to connect to David's point, fun fact, Angela King got her start writing for the Lifetime channel, like Andrea did with Beth in season 2. Yeah.
Like that, except like way more badass and tough, because Andrew was still fucking weak when she did that. She was trying to get Beth the option because she still wished that Dale would have given her the option.
Yeah.
But Carol would be doing it because she's like, you know what? I'm tired of standing by and seeing these weak ass kids die and giving a shit about them. So if you want to just end it, then just go ahead and end it. Because I don't want to invest caring for you anymore. You know, and it'd be her calling that part of her life over with. I'm done being a mother. I'm done. I don't want to do that anymore.
And Caddigat says the whole Carol and Lydia sequence just felt like a discount version of a Charlie and Alicia from Fear the Walking Dead. No joke for people that watch that. Lifetime really, says Ellie. That explains the soap opera tone the show has now. Jason Voorhees says Daryl pulling out a lightsaber and slicing over a dog to shove Judith inside to warm her up would have saved this show. Like Andrea did in Beth in season 2. That would have been awesome seeing David. Plus, it's not like Lydia will have any relevancy. That one character to keep her relevant to the story is already dead. And And yeah, I cannot agree with both of you guys more. Oh, then they head to the sanctuary for some shelter. Okay, so we're back in with Negan and Rosita, and we get some, say what you want about this stupid scene and all this bullshit. I can't help but smile now when Negan's on screen because, again, Jeffrey D. Morgan seems to be one of the only people that's adding any life to the dialogue when he's delivering it right now. So seeing his little stupid smile on his face, even if it doesn't make any sense and it isn't the best dialogue in the world, at least makes me go, okay. Someone that's having fun. And I might not be having fun, but this guy's having fun.
This room. And it still feels like a party.
Never-ending party from hell.
I mean, sure, all right, it smells like a goddamn barn and you're all bored shitless, but...
Language.
Sorry, kiddo. But, I mean, we've got ourselves this hot little love quadrant.
Like, if there was a Saturday morning cartoon, the Walking Dead Saturday morning cartoon, it should star Negan and Judith. They're so cute together. But again, I'm not saying this was a tremendously good scene, but if I'm trying to find good moments in this episode, I generally again thought the Negan stuff was probably the best stuff we got in this episode, but I'm not on board with the Negan redemption arc crap. It's obvious. It's thick plotting of getting him to wipe off the dirt of the last 2 seasons and make it to a point where they can have him be our main protagonist of the fucking show. We all know what's happening next season, and he's gonna leave.
That's so fucking stupid.
It is. Cheeseball
Yeah.
bullshit. It's like we're watching in this stuff the spin-off balls off the wall Walking Dead. But again, it's cute dialogue. I'm not going to deny that my cute Disney Channel love of cheesy movies vibe gets kicked in with the Negan stuff because it's just like, it's cutesy.
Here to entertain us. It's like Christmas to me.
Well, maybe they're just as miserable at Aaron's or Barbara's.
Gabe, your girl's doc is also your girl's baby daddy, which kind of begs the question. You ever wonder what the hell is going on in there when she has her appointments?
Now he's like one of those, again, he's a perfect kind of character for the 90210 kind of vibe to the show. That one character that just puts all the other characters in the spot when they're sitting at the Peach Pit. He's like, oh, everybody, aren't you the guy fucking the thing so we can force some funny dialogue here? So let's force the funny dialogue.
You know what I think he is, actually? I think a more apt description is he's like in Saved by the Bell when they went to the Max and the guy came in with the Kramer hair and you're like, where's this guy been for the last like 8 episodes? And then he came up and they're like, do you think you're going to invite Kelly Kapowski or Jessica Spano to the prom, Zach? And he goes, not sure. And then the Max comes up and he goes, here's a dove. And then leaves. And then everyone goes, wow. That's what I think Negan is now. Where he shows up and in the middle of an awkward, tense episode, they have him inserted to go, here's a dove. And you're like, what the fuck am I watching? Like, it feels like 2 different shows.
It really does. It really does. It feels like we're in more of a sitcom-oriented Walking Dead universe, that there should be a laugh track going on while this is happening.
Try to be a little less predictable.
That hurts, Gabe, truly.
You know, we're all grown-ups here, and none of us would ever let that ruin the long-standing friendships and mutual respect we have.
You know what? You're right. That is a very mature attitude, father. Not the father. Is that unpredictable enough for you?
Oh my god! I wanted to play the laugh track, but I couldn't find it, so that'll have to do. So again, they have Negan pull it up and do all the funny, wacky, jokey type stuff, and it's I can't lie, I smile at the dialogue, and but it's cheesy, and it gets down to this point.
You know why I smile? Because I have an empathy reflex, and when I see other people smile, it makes me smile. But guess what? When I see shit dialogue, it also makes me want to kill myself.
And yes.
So, because I go, how in the fuck am I not a writer right now? How in the flying
Dude, how am I not begging you for a job at your writers? Like, as how are you not a writer on The Walking Dead and I'm not begging you for a job? Come on, how's that not happening?
I wrote an episode of The Walking Dead, and I won't get into the plot right now, but I'll tell you this: it's fucked up. It's somewhat realistic. It's what people would probably have done and how they would have found out that the apocalypse started. Somebody would have had this experience, and it's way fucking better than this.
And Blue Steel says, yo, motherfucking chat. I'm just stopping in to say I was actually liking the Blizzard feeling of this episode. Negan and Judith scenes were the best of the show still. Then they shat on it by making the snow. And it's especially with the alpha and beta scene at the end where there was just, oh, it's sunny again. Question to your guest from Ellie. What's the purpose of having the refugees hold up at the sanctuary serve? Nothing. Any purpose, David?
Oh, I'm sorry, dude.
Oh, no, that's okay. Question to your guest. What purpose did having the refugee hold up at the sanctuary serve?
Having them hold up at the sanctuary. Because Negan's in this episode, and they just wanted to be able to have Michonne go, the sanctuary looks like shit.
David, I think you win. That is the correct answer. That is definitely the correct answer. They did that to set up one moment of dialogue. You're absolutely right, and that's what I was gonna say. I was gonna cut off your question to David with my answer there. You
know why? Do you know why, guys? You want to know why fucking Sanctuary was in this? Because isn't it awesome how in the teaser it's like, on the next episode of AMC's The Walking Dead, or sorry, I forgot the new version they do. Next up on AMC's Walking Dead. And it shows Daryl, coming in or whatever, or Michonne coming in with a fucking katana and a crossbow into the sanctuary. And you're like, what the fuck are they doing there? And guess what? They're not doing anything there. They're not doing anything there. They're getting warm. That's a scene. People go, here's a good question. King Ezekiel was just like, kingdoms fall. Fires everywhere. Meanwhile, guess what? Did anybody else notice the retarded editing at the beginning where he goes, the fires raged, and they're showing steam pipes. They're not showing any fires. And he goes, and the mold. And I go, mold's not a reason to leave either. What the fuck are you talking about? And guess what? If there's fires raging, then stand next to them and keep fucking warm, you idiot.
Yeah, again, that's why instead of yada-yadaing the beginning of the episode, we would have see a little bit more time at the kingdom and seeing how things fell apart. And Blue Steel, a whisper war in the snow would be fun. Don't care if you all hated it. This episode was actually good for 30 minutes. Screw you all! I just want to give multiple opinions, Blue Steel. I definitely mentioned at the beginning I did like the fact that we got in the snow, and I liked the way the walkers looked. And I generally did enjoy the Negan and Judith scenes too. But as David pointed out, it feels like a different show. And if you're going to be that kind of show, be that kind of show. Go full into it. And I think that's probably where they're fucking heading. Next season's going to be a lot more Negan, Judith-centric, I'm guessing. But that could just be my perception.
Do this, AMC. I don't know how much money you got. But I'm going to make a couple guesses here. King Ezekiel. Pike him. Okay? That's about $850,000 a season, right there. Let's see. Who else can we pike? Who needs to go? Phil. Who's
quickly? Two people they need to go right now. Oh God, it's tough because there's a lot of possible options here, and a lot of people I don't care about. I don't think. Do you really need to keep Carol on the show anymore?
Have her go off to the fucking Rick movie and make sure you get some good fucking writers.
Yeah.
Have her show up again.
Right. Have her go on Walkabout.
Fucking leave.
Michonne's dead anyway or leaving, so I think Michonne's one answer. I think Daryl's not going anywhere no matter what. Daryl's on the show till the show ends. And so I would say Michonne, and I would say get Carol off the show in some ways.
Okay. So if Michonne, Carol, and King Ezekiel were gone, now you got $7 million a season. Probably, actually, no, you know what? For a season, you probably have $12.5 million right there. So $1.25 million if you could bring Frank Darabont back, have him direct 10 episodes, and with a cheaper budget, look at how much further he went with character development.
Yeah, and introduce all new...
survived the writer's strike and only left because they couldn't pay him enough money. But now you have plenty of money.
To go...
And now the lawsuit is over. So fucking bring him back.
To go in that direction, I would say wipe out the whole cast and start from scratch with let Frank Darabont do one final season of The Walking Dead or something. Or just let him do the Rick Grimes movie. Just let...
Yeah, oh my God.
Let him, like, the lawsuit's over, as you pointed out. Want to get back to that feel of the original Walking Dead? Let him just do the Rick Grimes movie. If he even wants to. I don't think he'd want to.
No,
that's the missing component here. He's done with that shit. He does not give a flying fuck about those people other than to want to fucking hate on them. I don't think he'd ever walk back in the building unless... But that being said, there was a point in time where people didn't think Wes Craven would walk back into the Nightmare on Elm Street universe, but he eventually did. And it's somewhat relevant to the point of after Nightmare on Elm Street 1 was so good, and then they wanted to fuck it till it died and then obviously the second one had the issues, and then Wes came back to influence part 3, and then eventually when he got his rights and in a big deal where he was robbed of a lot of his rights for the Nightmare on Elm Street money. Anyways, that's different podcast altogether.
People are saying like they got Santevia says they got rid of the kingdom so they can introduce the Commonwealth. You know how you get the Commonwealth introduced is you kill off useless fucking characters in an extraordinary way. Not just the Pike thing, but you know what? Like when Negan got his leg cut, if it really was that cold and in the apocalypse and you couldn't quickly get to a hospital or something like that, pneumonia. Okay, immediately pneumonia. Now you're fighting for your fucking life. They did it even in the movie The Day After Tomorrow, which a lot of people think fucking sucks. But a girl gets like a cut this big on a car bumper, and
she gets dysentery or something.
It causes her to, like, Jake Gyllenhaal's love interest starts to get pneumonia, and she almost dies. Like she starts like having a seizure because she has an infection and it's freezing and she's fighting to stay alive. It's like people need to die of normal things. I was saying this to my folks because they are also fully caught up in The Walking Dead, having the same issues that we are right now with it. But I go, have people after 6 years die of cancer. People would have gotten ovarian cancer or, lung cancer just because they smoked for 50 years, like Tammy Rose or something like that. Like something that's more natural, and then you would actually have a lot of empathy and sorrow for them, but you'd also be kind of relieved that they didn't meet their fate in a vicious, horrible way.
Yeah, the closest thing we got to that was, I believe, one of the saviors said she was sick, but when we were pre-introduced to one of the saviors in the episode...
You can't even remember the name, though. You know what I mean?
No, because it wasn't a memorable character. It was the mother of from the D-Girl episode of The Sopranos that was in played a savior in a random episode
Right. You're right.
Before Negan was introduced. Like she was the older woman, had cancer, I believe.
I remember the name of that episode. It was called Kill Floor.
Oh, okay. I wouldn't even remember the name of the episode. I only remember it because the girl from D-Girl is in it. So let's go. Why was Jesus killed off? Oh, Lindsay answered the question for Super Nick in the live motherfucking chat. The Rick Grimes movie is already set up, so shit, he says Killmonger. I feel like Darabont has completely disappeared. He hasn't had any projects recently. Exactly, David. So don't be silly, David. There are no chemtrails anymore to give them cancer. Okay, so let's continue here to get through a little bit more of this episode. So we get we're back in with Negan and Rosita, and he's all happy. Okay, so we yada yada all that. There's what did I say? Small funky here. What's this?
Another blaze, lest we plan on ceasing all respiratory functions, aka smoking and choking.
God, I missed you, Eugene.
Can't say the same.
Oh, I hit the wrong sound effect. That deserved one of these. Or like some laughter and shit too. So we get a few more of those moments, and they end up going to Aaron's house in a major blizzard. So then Daryl and Carol sit down for another talk, And this is talk 2 for them. I'm trying to remember what this is all about. I forget. Oh, and she asks Ezekiel what they talked about. And they talk about how Ezekiel blames Daryl for what happened to Henry, or at least that's what he tells Carol. I think it's more that he's jealous of their relationship rather than he just blames anything to do with completely about Henry. But we'll go with that. And how she's fucked and what I wrote about this scene was that there's some stakes here because the two of them have chemistry, and it comes through a little bit in this scene, if I remember. So listen to a few seconds of this and see if I remembered correctly.
Yeah.
Too much pausing.
We're gonna make it.
Here we go.
All right. We will.
Yeah. Something happened back there with you and Ezekiel?
No.
There's a lot of pauses on this show. It's like the
He only
Pinter pause.
blames you because he can't let himself blame me.
Gotta make that hour time.
It's a good point, David, because I don't feel like it feels natural to normal conversation. Even, like, for real, dude. Like, if we were talking.
They don't have any real part of the conversation. For example, you know what happens in conversation all the time, especially now, where people don't wait even 5 seconds for you to correct.
Yeah, totally. They just cut people off. Oh. No, but exactly. Like, people do that. They don't.
Wait,
David, what? They don't do that. There's not these long fucking pauses. And everybody, that was an intentional awkward moment.
And, yeah, that was an intentional technical difficulty. But here's the thing, is that this happens in conversation all the time where someone is talking either in a relationship, like in an argument, or just with their friend when they're shooting the shit. And you ever go like this, yeah, you know, when Columbus sailed the ocean blue in 1592, and someone goes 1492, and he's like, you know, fuck off, you know, quit correcting me, I'm trying to make a point here. You know, there's stuff like that in conversation where people misspeak and then get corrected and piss each other off and stuff like that. There's not enough of that. There's not enough tension. It's like, just because you've been through shit together doesn't mean that you both are mutes and you both just nod at each other for 6 years like, yep, this is how our friendship goes. No, there would be ups and downs. It's like, you know, Ezekiel, I would have been happy to hear them talking about like, oh, there's way more problems with their relationship than just these last few months, because they both realize that it was built around staying together for Henry.
Right.
And now that Henry is gone, there's no reason for them to keep a facade going. You know, there's no need for this king shit, queen shit. There's no need to, because once he left the nest, that's when problems started happening. Because you said the last couple months. It's like, yeah, Henry was at fucking Hilltop the last couple months. You think they're not related? But explore that. Get into that. Do The Sopranos. Let's delve deeper into the psyche here. Why did those ducks fly away with your penis, Tony?
Tony and the fucking ducks. Those fucking ducks, Tony.
Don't bring up the fucking ducks
I'm
again.
losing myself again. I'm really trying to hang on, but I don't know what I'm doing.
Maybe it was in the visual aspect of seeing the two characters together, not necessarily in the dialogue, because I still think the dialogue in The Walking Dead is horseshit. But I do think these two actors do have chemistry. I never bought their romance, as Super Nick was saying in the chat, either. I never saw that as a dynamic of their relationship. I think that's just people wanting to put couples together. It's like Rick Moranis playing with toys and Spaceballs. I'm just playing with my toys. I mean, you just want to put people together sometimes. But I don't think Daryl and her ever really had that kind of chemistry. It always came off more to me in a brotherly, sisterly way.
No, they're bonding over the fact that Carol knows that she can kind of be almost a motherly like figure to him because he can handle himself. And so the only person that she still has vulnerability and will express things to is Daryl, just like your mom would express things that she has issues with to you. It's like that's what it is. And yeah, there might be there was tension there, you know, in earlier seasons that made more sense because they're also like, well, there's only like 8 people in the world in the first 3 seasons. So of course they're going to get together. Why would you think Glenn would ever have a shot with Maggie in real fucking life? Of course not. They even acknowledge that in the episode where they go, not a lot of options these days. And then they sleep together in the pharmacy. I remember it. Maggie even initiates.
Yeah,
it.
and I think she says that about that situation. And another thing about that with the two of them, to go to your point, they're also the 2 most long-standing characters that are left on the show. So we know them from the longest period of time. There's no other characters from our original group other than Daryl and Carol. Michonne would be the next one, and she came through a lot later on. Other than that, who else is left from our main group? It's just these 2 characters. So now they're each other's family. Remember back to our first season, we're the only ones that are left.
I think by comparison, I don't care what people thought about the Rick and Michonne thing. And at first, although it is odd, I go, it makes sense though. She is attractive. They do have little subtle things where Rick is kind of hinting or flirting at Michonne or expressing some kind of vague interest because he admires how tough she is. And she admires how much Rick is a survivor and a fighter and protects his own. And that's why she says that in Rick's, final episode. She said, you know why I fell in love with you? Because we're the ones who live. That's what you said, and you're a fighter and you don't give up. So I'm not worried about you because I know that you're going to pull through this. That's why she likes Rick. It's not because she just needs dick right now. There's more to relationships than that, especially in this world. Like, you need someone who can handle themselves, someone you're not afraid to let them go off on their own because you're worried they
someone
might never
you
come
don't mind that smells like absolute dog ass.
Yeah. I mean, but also she was friends with Carl. There was a lot more buildup.
Yeah, it was. And it made just because I think some people felt the actors didn't have awesome chemistry, the relationship and the build-up in that made sense, and they definitely took their time with it. They didn't just pair them off in the way that they're doing with the show now, and just kind of pairing off characters just to make sure everyone has a dance partner, so to speak. She did ask him if he wanted to fool around while we were at the prison. I thought it was so weird. It just didn't work for me. Oh, with the Carol and Daryl stuff. Yeah, the romance thing never worked for me either. If this was season 4 and onward, Glenmore would have had a chance. Glenn got swole by then. If Carol and Daryl were meant to happen, don't you think it would have happened long ago and not 10 seasons into the show? Okay, so let's continue here where, speaking of Michonne gets a scene with Ezekiel here.
It could last for days, but we can't. Not here. We don't have enough.
Where for reasons they need to leave and they can't stay here. They need to get to a different station. I didn't understand, and maybe I didn't follow or watch closely enough, and people can't. And I'm sure I could listen to this back if I wanted to listen to the whole scene of dialogue. But I don't understand exactly why they couldn't stay there for the storm, but they needed to get to a different way station, apparently, which needed to cross over into the Whisper territory and go walk over some ice. So they need to go to a completely non-planned out dangerous situation.
Does anybody else not just hate this kind of Game of Thrones lack of understanding where the locations are in relation to each other? Are they 2 miles apart? Are they 10 miles apart?
I don't know.
600 feet?
But I guess they're at the sanctuary and they don't want to stay at the sanctuary because it's a disgusting fucking place. And
yeah, because everywhere is covered with bodies is so beautiful and clean.
So back at the sanctuary, Ezekiel and Michonne they talk about more about what happened and stuff.
I'm sorry.
This is the most we get about the kingdom.
Another way.
I just want to do right by them. The kingdom fell. I should have seen it come and gotten us out sooner. My people wouldn't be here like this if it wasn't for me.
No, they wouldn't be.
Motherfucker, why couldn't we have seen this shit? Have some confidence in your taking your time in storylines. Why are you in such a fucking hurry? You want to go on for 20 fucking seasons? Why are you in such a fucking hurry? Why can't you show us some of this shit? At least.
How about this? Show Jerry in this winter loses one of his kids to the frost.
Yeah. Something
that would happen. Something that happens to people now. People get stranded in their cars and die in their fucking cars from freezing to death. It's like because the battery went out while they were asleep and they just froze in their sleep. It's like,
or instead of what you were saying, like you were saying earlier about, it seems almost that they left the sanctuary, left the kingdom because some pipes or something like that. There wasn't a bigger issue of that. If you want to do the time jump, whatever, they've done this stuff before. Halfway through the episode, maybe you do the time jump, or you start this episode with this time jump in the snowy times, and you have most of this episode be the kingdom trying to work things out in the kingdom, even back in the Way's speech, but you spend more time there and actually get a feel for how the winter is going to affect these places. But the problem is we've already seen several winters, and this is why that doesn't work. I'm talking myself out of it because we've already seen several winters that we just haven't seen. So it couldn't be that bad unless this was a record-breaking, ridiculous storm of epic proportion that was happening right now, and seeing how that affects things. But I don't know. It just seems like there could have been a lot more interesting ways of doing this without having a conversation like this to have to let us know that the kingdom was failing.
Because they won't be here at all.
Oh, that's okay. I'd rather hear what you have to say.
Well, here's the thing. I'm really getting tired. I've been tired of this for seasons. It hasn't mattered who says it or how they say it. I'm tired of hearing we don't get to anymore. This happened because of me. We won't make it here. Just these generalized, we have it bad sentences that come from like this existential kind of crisis. Like every single character has to have that, where it's like, this person died because of me. And it's like, but we don't care. And nor should you, because based on what we've seen, you shouldn't care. It's the same thing when Tara was with Denise. Everybody remember the girl who got a bolt through the fucking face?
Oh, poor
No,
Denise.
you don't. You forgot, okay? Because
Dr. Denise.
Nobody cares. But here's the thing is that we were supposed to feel bad for Tara, but we never even saw them interact with each other than Denise plants a kiss on her and goes, it's hard keeping a secret. It's like, why do you have to say it like that? Can't you just say the word gay? What are you worried about someone overhearing you and like not liking gay people in the apocalypse? Like that's still a problem now? Like, it's God, I'm just tired of it. It's the same thing where, Game of Thrones had this problem in the last season where how many people have to say like, I do it for the good of the realm, or I want to be on the side that fights for the living, or just these vague general statements that everybody says. And
they're for trailers. A lot of
times. Yeah, trailers, and everybody has to say it. It's, oh my God.
So a lot of people like Denise, dude. I think you're speaking for yourself as a Atari dad. Instead of putting a bunch of red shirts heads on pikes, Game of Thrones doesn't have any of the problems The Walking Dead has. Instead, they put a bunch of red shirts heads on pikes. Could have happened in season 4. They were separated on the road. She's with Tyrese and the kids, and they were shipping them with Bess to Santovia. AMC is afraid of pissing off the audience when they can't have red shirts come to the hellish winter storm. So let's continue here. So they cross the pikes in the area, and let's get a little. I'm gonna get through this recap a little bit here, and let's give me some music, Miles. Oi! So they cross the pikes in the area where they should, and they light it at night. And then we see a group trying to make it to the next house in Alexandertown, and Judith goes off looking for Dog, and Negan goes after her. Then we fade to black as our group goes, and Daryl's killing walker sickles, and everyone's some long pauses waiting to see if the whispers, but they're completely frozen walkers that they decapitate. Just like, I was making fun of it earlier, but it is almost like Batman and Robin, where they're just like smashing things that Mr. Freeze freezes. So then they go to this river to check to see if the ice is safe, and they do this silly fucking thing that I hate when they just test one part of the ice. Oh, this is safe. We're all gonna walk over it. That's easy. We're gonna go out there. And Daryl checks out a section and says we're good. They check out it, and Lydia looks underneath, and we see some snow walkers come out, and it looks cool for a second, and the snow looks decent. Then Jorah is able to battle some walkers back, Aaron, and then they help the people move along, and Daryl holds some off, and Michonne kills some too, and it's never the Whispers in this situation, and they find their way across. One person stops and it's Lydia and Carol, and they have this amazing conversation here. Let's listen to their conversation.
I don't know. I just know I can't cross that river.
Why not?
Because I know it's on the other side. It's the same thing that's on this side. Everyone's acting like getting to Hilltop's gonna make all our problems go away.
Okay,
it's gonna make everything better, but it's not gonna...
This is what I'm fucking talking about.
It's the same thing. It's the same
generalized crap.
Same thing.
It's the same thing from different characters every fucking time. It's we can't go there. No, it's not safe. It's not safe here. It's not safe anywhere. And it's like we've heard the same thing from the Whispers that the Wolves said, and that the Wolves said the same thing that the Saviors said. Joe said this a few podcasts ago. So anybody who likes Joe, you should agree with this, because he said that they reused the same 11 statements and just spread it around to different people. And it's very obvious. I have an attention to detail. Maybe I just give more of a shit about that stuff, but I'm sorry, I can't shut my brain off from thinking how many fucking people have said we have to keep moving. 10 years into this shit. 10 fucking years. How often do you have to keep saying? That's like saying we have to fight to survive. It's the same thing that Joe was saying. Everybody should have a weapon on them. There should not be people who don't know how to defend themselves. It doesn't make any fucking sense. You only need that because you need drama. Because you can't write actual drama, so you have to create bullshit drama that would never fucking happen. You have to have Tammy Rose fighting off the Whispers with a shovel, you fucking idiots.
And they have to introduce a character like Tammy Rose to basically you cast an older actress that's recognizable from her sitcom, and you make people force feed them that caring bullshit because they have some sort of, oh, I recognize that actress, I care about her, I don't want to see anything bad happen to that actress. You build them up for half a season of bullshit to care about their characters just to make them somewhat more of a hit in the last episode when we see them on the pikes. I didn't care. You shouldn't care. No one cares. No one cares. Same 1998 champion says so true. Same forced storyline, pretty much always. Bullshit drama. Adrian loves how much The Walking Dead hates this show. Preach, David. Okay.
Don't, you guys. I really don't. What upsets me is how much I love this show and how they are slowly making me dislike something that I love. My fucking channel's called The Walking fucking David, and it's making me resent myself.
Yeah,
it's
tough.
It would be, it's like I have a channel called I Love The Walking Dead, and now they're making me go, what the fuck are you doing?
But David, will Lydia die here?
Shit.
Tension. Here we go.
They're not gonna want me back.
What will happen?
If they hadn't taken me in to begin with, all those people would still be alive. Your son's dead because of me. Henry said I was a good person, but he was wrong.
You do that, but don't.
As long as I'm one of you, it's never gonna stop.
Oh my goodness.
You know I'm right.
Take 5.
There's only one way to fix this. You see it. It can be you. No one else has to know.
I can't do it. Sorry, I'm shutting off that shit. It's tough. It's tough because no one thought Carol was going to kill her there. No one thought that was going to anything bad was going to happen here. It was just a waste of time. So we go from that to, I guess, again, probably some of the better stuff in the episode, I guess, with Negan trying to find Judith in the snow, and he finds her very easily. He's got her, and it's a heart filled with love sort of moment. Why'd you run off? And she just wants some extra Negan time. The golden poop nuggets. Oh, it's this dog better poop the golden nuggets, and some amazing, creative comic dialogue written in this scene for Negan and Judith. David, isn't it? It was so beautiful, right? I'm trying to pause so we can get to it. Slowly dislike. The show has hit the skids when Glenn went under the dumpster. It has never recovered.
I'm so sick. By the way, you guys, I fucking get it with the dumpster crap. That wasn't it. It hit the skids many times after. I guess that was the first iteration that people had, but it had other problems. And it's I don't know. That's the one that people seem to have a big issue with. What happened, what really killed the show, wasn't even season 6. It was people's, these mid-fucking West housewives who were showing their 10-year-olds this show, complaining that Glenn and Abraham got, on national television. And it's like, I'm sorry, every comic book reader was waiting for that. It was the Red Wedding equivalent. Sorry, I'm making myself have a lisp. The Red Wedding equivalent for The Walking Dead. It was something where people knew it was going to come. They knew it was going to be brutal, and it fucking was. Okay? And you know what? By the way, if you remember, the rest of that episode sucked. Okay? That was the only part that was like...
It was a lot of It was a lot of driving, if I remember correctly. A lot of
something, and Negan's hairline and hair dye changing multiple times depending on how the light hit it. And everybody pretending like it was winter when it was 110 degrees out.
Instead of winter like this shit, where winter's actually here.
Rodan.
Now I'm just to the commercial breaks there. But okay, so Negan's looking for Judith. He finds her. They walk up and get some extra Negan time. I said I like these two together. I can't lie. She gets the dog too, and it's cutesy shit. Somewhere along the line, I missed it. I probably just blinked or was looking down, taking notes at the time. Negan fucked up his leg. Got cut his leg. Was it like an obvious moment, and that I just missed? Or was it just like Negan's his leg got fucked up?
No, he got his leg. Fuck. I give as much a shit about that as I did when T-Dog cut his arm.
So we come back in after all of that with the Heroes Season 1 music as Daryl breaks some ice walkers. And I don't know if I have the audio here of this scene. Do I have it? It sounds totally like where you're about to say, listen, do I have this? Play this shit. There are extraordinary people in this world.
We're gonna head to Alexandria in the morning.
Okay. Seems nice there.
Yeah, it is.
Claire's there. Peter Petrelli.
Why'd you leave?
Siler.
One day.
Atari Dad says he tripped at some point, had a bad fall. Okay, I must have missed that. I did not see that particular situation. Adrian says, absolutely right, David. I've seen his... Okay, I have seen his chat room. I stay away. Something was blowing in the wind that hit Vegan's legs. Fucking shill. The dumpster was the start of the skids. Sorry, the show never had a Red Wedding level event, but
I'm not saying that it did. I'm saying
they wanted it to be
equivalent for this universe. The most that they had shown. I don't think it was the most vicious thing that they showed.
Rick biting that fucking asshole.
Noah getting, ripped apart. That was way more gory. But it's just like, as far as character deaths that greatly affected the fan base and made them hate it or made them love it, it changed it. Because guess what? Every single one of these Midwestern housewives, when they bitched about it being too graphic, it changed the whole show. It ruined the rest of the second half of season 7. It ruined season 8. And they just now started to come back a little bit by doing some of the gore. Because they realized, you know what? If you don't like it, it's a fucking zombie show. If you got a problem with that, stop watching a zombie show. Okay, threatening by going, I'm gonna put my fucking money on Z Nation. I mean, that show that has even more gore than The Walking Dead does. It's like, shut the fuck up.
But they didn't kill Glenn. Okay, so Zeke and Carol talk about how. Lydia, they're heading to Alex. Okay, so they get back to the hilltop, and they check on in, and Lydia and Daryl are going to head to Alexandria the next day, and a lot of big team are going to be heading over to Alexandria. They're only waiting here for an evening, and here comes the breakup where Carol breaks up with Ezekiel.
We made it.
We don't have to listen to this, but she basically says, I'll never stop loving you, but I have to leave. I can't be around you.
Did we?
I was so invested in these guys'
I'm
story.
going to Alexandria tomorrow with the others.
The music sounds like it's horrifying. It's the most horrible thing that's ever going to happen here. And I know I'm picking on The Walking Dead's music a lot this season. It's not that it's not effective. It's just overly dramatic for a lot of moments. Again, I'm not surprised now that I know that King came from Lifetime movies. I can see this. Some of this is after school special highlight music.
I know you have to do this. But I will never stop loving you.
David, I will never stop loving you. And it's so sad. It's so sad. It's horrible. One of my body parts is falling off with the breaking of this romance. This is just a romance I think so many people were completely invested in. The king and the queen are breaking up. Okay, so Ezekiel and Carol talk about how they're breaking up, and Carol's going back to Alexandria. So then we're back in Alexandria, and Judith and Michonne have a loving embrace.
What happened?
And David, then we have a snowball fight. What'd you think of the snowball fight? Yeah, exactly. David is this show, in talking about this show, has turned David into Joe now. He's just totally Joe in this. He's like, oh my god,
yeah.
This is horrible.
Here's the thing. That's why, like, when I watch these, I've been enjoying it a lot. Like, I've messaged Phil and Joe like directly, going like, dude, I love this last review that you did, just because it hit every point fucking on the head, and that it hurts to say that, because believe me, I wish I could go, man, I thought this was amazing. There was one that I said that, and as I said in a voicemail how much I liked it, Joe cackled.
Yeah.
Like, he belly laughed hard for like 3 minutes, like, because he disagreed so much. So it was the show that I still like certain things that, Joe or Phil might not. But these last few episodes, we've been pretty much, tit for tat.
David, he's always around. In fact, he's taken over your face a couple times this podcast. He just shows up sometimes, and
so yeah, I can't even see that because I don't have, like,
please stop please stop. Don't play any more of this episode. We don't need to hear it again. I will play one more. No, we're in. Negan is in his bed with his hurt leg, and Negan and Michonne have a conversation that she's special. He loves her. He feels for her. That they feel good, and he also asks about the kingdom people, and they talk a little bit about the whispers. And Michonne sits down, and eventually they have a actual conversation. At first, it's a lot of the normal bullshit back and forth, and she then looks at Negan as an asset, so to speak, and asks him about their strategy.
Together, and we made it.
Common enemy, common goal.
Or facing evil brings good people together.
Same thing. It's just that no one ever thinks that they're the evil one.
I thought that was the best line in the episode. That talking about perspective in talking about when you look at these characters for a show that has unfortunately gotten to a point where they write characters very two-dimensionally. It's a very three-dimensional kind of line that ultimately people, even the bad guys, think of themselves as the hero. Everyone is the hero of their own narrative. And that's an important thing, and I think that's a good piece of dialogue. And if you're gonna write these introspective kind of things here, have more shit like that doesn't seem forced. It seems like just a natural thing Negan would say, and I thought it was probably the best line of the season in some ways. But of course, because of that, now you're gonna see that in every AMC trailer is gonna like focus on that line and stuff, and it's gonna be about next season there are no good guys and bad guys. And they're gonna sell that. You'll see Negan saying that on a t-shirt. But whatever. Phil, the best line was "Father, not the father." Oh, the "Father, not the father" line was very good too, Jackson. I meant to play that earlier.
He was saying stuff like, "This is the best Jerry Springer episode I've ever witnessed." You know, like something like that, where it was more acknowledging this thing, but the weird choice of words where it's like, "This weird quadrangle that we find ourselves is born as shit."
Yeah.
Like, I'm sorry, that's just not how people talk.
No, it was written with a thesaurus right next to it. It screams of that. But yes, the line he wrote with the father not a father stuff was cool. It almost seemed like an ad-lib. It was pretty funny. So he asks about the kingdom. She says, you don't really give a fuck about it. They talk about all that shit. So then we go over to our moment of alpha for the episode for some reason. And we get Alpha and Beta here, just to make sure we know that they exist. And it didn't snow here, I guess, wherever they're at right now.
It has.
And this was useless.
I've made mistakes.
This was fucking useless, right? Like, what was the...
They already showed this scene. I swear this is like a scene that they already showed earlier in the season, and they just extended it by 20 seconds.
Would anyone have been fucking upset if we didn't go to them, and the episode was actually an hour long? Like, do we really need to... Again... I don't mind episodes going a little longer, but I feel like because of what Sons of Anarchy did and started the standard on FX to stretch episodes to not a normal amount of time in the final seasons, every show in their mother's like, oh, we can do this too. And I don't mind when a show does it occasionally when it matters for an episode they want to tell. You do an hour and 15 minutes or something in the time block. But The Walking Dead is one of those shows that should be edited down to that 45-minute in the hour block time frame. When they have these extra 15 minutes, it always feels like these episodes are just padded out. Why not have just a tighter product and just edit it down to something tighter? It's stupid.
Yeah, they went a lot longer this episode. They went so long that it became fucking spring again.
Yeah, exactly. We got Winds of Winter and Dreams of Spring right here. And then at the end of the episode, we see Ezekiel talking on the radio to Alexandria, and Judith is there as the always optimist. And then the last thing we'll play is what we heard, this voice at the end. And this is our big cliffhanger, or big thing to talk about.
Hi, I'm Chris Hardwick. That was
Oh wait, let's see what Chris Hardwick has to say.
9 finale of The Walking Dead. And stick around, we're going to break everything down with Angela Kang and Melissa McBride right after a special look at Killing Eve. Please.
Okay. So yeah.
Real quick. I've said this before, I'll say it again, but just since we're on stream, Chris Hardwick is one of the worst hosts of TV shows, period. He's bad at panels, he's bad at interviews, and I think he's awful. I think the fact that there is a whole show called The Talking Dead and he is somehow the star of it is retarded. I would rather see a show where each character who got killed off was the person hosting the show when they cut back from commercial going, hey, it's me, fucking Noah. Remember me? Everybody hates Chris. We'll be right back at the end of the Walking Dead episode to talk about how I died. You know, like, that would be more interesting with the actors just interviewing themselves. But he is as boring as unbuttered toast.
Yeah.
Anyways, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I can't necessarily Disagree much with that, especially on The Talking Dead. Why did Beta whip Alpha's arm? That was so lame. Not needed. Johnny Rico, I was so let down. I was let down by the end of this episode. Says Saint. Those were stayed warm through the winter by having orgies, says Atari Dad. Atari Dad, I didn't mourn Glenn at all during that cliffhanger in season 6. Ruined. Also, Negan's entrance was ruined by the innocent cameraman was being killed. Super Nick says, anyone else dying, pun intended, to see Beta's real face? Who is? And Blazy's Ford Hip Campus. Any Walking Dead episode could be 15 minutes long now. They're 90% padding. And I can't disagree with that. The funniest line in this season was that Michonne said to Judith, Negan's done monstrous things. He's killed people. Like, seriously? Is maybe Chris Hardwick seems like he's pretty harmless to me, says Atari Dead. He sounded like Jadis. It sounded like Jadis to me. If I had to pick who that sounded like, I also thought for a second it sounded like Jadis. Some people thought it might be Maggie. I doubt it's Maggie. Maggie got a mention in this episode for whatever that's worth.
Maybe it's Ozzy's wife, everybody. Fucking idiots.
It could be Ozzy's wife. So Lindsay says, I'm with David on this one. I'm no fan of Yvette Nicole Brown, but she's always way better of a host on The Talking Dead. She did a good job with the season 9 Talking Dead special. Centovia says, I didn't hear that Georgia accent, so I didn't think it was Maggie. I think the radio message said, end this fucking show already. I thought it was Jadis too. I think Johnny Rico has it. The message was, end this fucking show now, motherfuckers. And we will be ending the podcast pretty soon too, coming up in a little bit. I just wanted to say a couple messages. You're giving me blue balls, man. I want to know what you thought. Fuck yeah, get on now. Sorry, Area Code 408. Just watching the Walking Dead recap from last week. Back in a minute. Awesome stuff. Thank you, texters, and thank you to all of our voicemailers. But I don't know what else to really say about this season finale, David. When we were talking about getting you on, you mentioned how it's been a bummer that you haven't been on some episodes. The episodes you had chances to be on, we couldn't figure out the timing on it. Were you excited? And then we were kind of excited to be able to have you on the season finale. Were you disappointed overall by this compared to how you've been feeling for the rest of the season? Like, do you? Because we haven't talked to you through this whole season. Have you been higher on this season than the last two, or yes?
I think this is undeniably better than the last two. I mean, I will say this. Season 8 had a lot of little vignette scenes that I thought were fantastic, or that looked badass, or I thought were like heading in the right direction, and characters like Dwight and stuff like that really helped carry the show, or helped the show kind of hobble along just a little bit. However, this season, at least the first, 5 episodes, and then I would say every other episode after that. So after 5, 7, 9, 11, 13, or whatever, those were pretty damn good. And that kind of falls into my it falls into everybody's disappointment, because, like I said, episode 15, everybody feels like that should have been the finale, and I completely agree. I would have just started it. I would have ended the whole season on the snow falling, and then just leave it at that.
Yeah, and
have the Game of Thrones season 8 tease.
Yeah,
like
winter's coming. Yeah, and then you lead it into next season, and maybe have the first few episodes of next season be wintry, and have the winters coming, like the worst winter in years in that area, and just have a whole kind of half a season built around a winter kind of theme. And I think that might have been interesting. Maybe too much, but maybe we're babbling about it. But
I used to look forward to that aspect of The Walking Dead, where they used to say that every 8 episodes we're doing a little bit of a different show. It's almost like that's why we have like Bearded Rick, Farmer Rick, Sheriff Rick, Constable Rick at the end of like season 5 or the beginning of season 6,
Ricktatorship Rick.
Yeah, Ricktatorship. I mean, like, you have these little moments where there's arcs within the season or half season, and that's gone. That's not there anymore. Everything is a teaser for something that'll never come. It's perpetual blue balls.
Yep, and it's never actually getting anything or any satisfaction, and it really fucking sucks. And I'm hoping for season 10 that they get back to at least shorter focused stories, maybe 2-3 episode arcs with certain characters, and get back to doing that, because I think when where the writing is right now and where the level of character depth that we're at right now, the more you do the bigger pieces with more characters involved, it doesn't work. It worked better when you had a bunch of characters that they spent time getting to know and focused in like in one area, like in the prison, focus in like all that group of characters that have dwindled now, that we're down to Carol, Michonne, and Daryl, and maybe you could say Rosita and Eugene as well, and Negan to a certain extent, maybe, but basically most of the characters are characters you just don't care about. So I think what you need to do is have focus episodes on individual characters and have these fucked up single off stories that have a lot of bite to them, and then maybe 1 or 2 episodes around the middle point, and then 1 or 2 episodes towards the end is more of a bring characters together focus sort of thing, and maybe just get back down to a simple horror kind of story. And I don't know if they can do that, because I think they're just going to keep pushing bigger groups and bigger communities, and what's the next thing from the comics that we can bastardize. And I think that's a shame, where they should at this point be worrying about just telling a good story and get back to the basics, stupid. And I just don't think that they're there. I don't think they have a lot of self-reflection of that the show that they're producing is shit right now, because there's a lot of fart smelling and ass lickery going on around them. So there's no challenge, because even if they're losing ratings, it's still, well, people just aren't watching TV the way they are before. It doesn't matter. They're still watching DVR versions of this, and they're watching it on Netflix later or whatever. They're not caring about the ratings, so of course the ratings are going to major suffer. So no one's really punishing them, and still they're still doing pretty good, even with the ratings dive compared to other shows in their time slot. Like, if it's one of the few shows where people do still tune in on the night to watch the show, because 9 o'clock on a Sunday is just a good television time. It's where Game of Thrones are. It's where all those HBO shows put themselves as well. But going into season 10, David, is there anything that this show can do, or are you hoping it's better, or are you feeling it's a sinking ship that can't find its way back up?
I think if the show comes out guns blazing, with really, really intense whisperer war type stuff, good. But here's the thing. Just like in an MMA fight where one person really loses and they just get immediately like Ronda Rousey in the first 45 seconds, you need to hit right in the fucking jaw right away. And then as we are reeling from that, hit us again with another thing, hit us again with another thing, hit us again with another thing, and make it to where we are just like completely knocked back on our asses, and then you just crush us into the pavement. And then you are left with a few episodes to think about what you just saw. Yeah. Where they slow things down and they have people react like real fucking people to what just happened.
Not just skip some time frame and have them go, oh, wow, Eugene had a really horrible reaction to what happened to Rosita and her baby. And let's actually see Eugene. And to that point, Lindsay says, give Eugene a bigger storyline next season. Kirkman stated that he's very important to the story in terms of building civilization. Stop putting baby in the corner and give him a storyline. Stop putting him in, giving his storylines to other people. Martin asks, do you think we'll see Maggie next season? No, I think she's done with this show. I don't know that for a fact, but I think, at least for the time being, I think we're more likely to see her in some of the spin-off movies than on The Walking Dead proper. I'd be surprised if we see her. Maybe because they keep mentioning her occasionally. Her name's come up a couple times this season because it has to. And with everything that's happening in the Hilltop and so many people dying, maybe they're daring her to come back. They want the actress to come back for 2 episodes
it's
so she can
exactly what I said before. They are putting small bets on every possible outcome.
Yep.
And waiting to see what people say. They are doing that, and if you are falling for it, you are a sucker, okay? Because, like, these people are playing this fan base like a fucking fiddle. And you know what? What the fans don't even realize is they do actually listen to what you say and your stupid ideas, because there's no context for the things that you say. They don't know when you're joking sometimes. So when you go, Ozzy's my favorite character, I miss him so much, they're not smart enough to to go, oh, they're fucking joking. So they go, yeah, more of him. Let's have him in an episode. Like, it would be like people going, yeah, Henry, I think he's actually, I think he's pretty misunderstood, pretty talented. And then they just incorporate him more and more to the story, and you're like, fuck off. Like,
actually, that wasn't Henry that got his head cut off. That was somebody else that looks like Henry. Henry was really behind this dumpster. And people have a hard time acting like real people in this fucking show. It says Jackson. Martin says she said she's not done. So maybe we will see Maggie again. AMC should just trim the fat from 16 episodes to 10 or 13. I agree with you, Lindsay, but I don't think AMC would ever admit defeat like that. They're gonna try to suck as much commercial energy as they can from The Walking Dead.
You've got to use these episodes, like I said, like using the fight analogy, like combo moves, where the first couple episodes hit him with a 1-2, just bang bam right out of the gate, and then like the third episode is a little bit of a backing it off, kind of sizing the story up, getting a feel for some of the characters, really interesting dialogue, and then you come in for the body shots and you hit them again, even harder this time, and you back after a few episodes of that, you back off again, because there's literally in screenwriting something referred to as a boxing match. It's a real thing. So the fighting analogy does make sense. Go and look it up. It's about characters it's a push me, pull you, there has to be conflict there. And there is no conflict. It's people making conflict out of thin air or forgetting plot lines and just like running with storylines and not finishing them.
And that's just an overall subtle problem with the entire Walking Dead as a whole right now, even with the dialogue and the acting moments. We were talking about that with the pauses, and I don't want to get into that again because it's awkward. Like the long pauses and stuff between the dialogue, and not in a sense where what's called in acting terms a pinter pause, where it actually makes sense for the form of the dialogue. On a show like The Walking Dead, those breaks and those moments break up the tension and make it seem like even more like less realistic or authentic dialogue, instead of feeling like people are having a real conversation. I think that the problem is they're doing it for the opposite reason. They think by doing that it's coming off realer, but instead it's putting more focus on how horribly written the dialogue is. Get a little bit more pacing. Kang has made the pacing of the editing of the show a bit better this season from the last 2 seasons. Work on the dialogue too. Make stuff a little bit more snappy. And I think that would at least add to the entertainment factor, because I think where you've fallen into this season is a lack of entertainment, which is my biggest problem. A couple of more live chats before we start to wrap things up. Blanco says, this episode was so dumb, anticlimactic, boring, and predictable. In other news, water's wet, the sun is hot, and puppies are cute. Awesome comment, Blanco. One of the best of the night. Super Nick says, Beta is a zombie, Shane cured and alive. Do we need to stay with the realisticness at this point? Don't get me started with the long pauses, Phil. The long pauses are probably, to me, the biggest thing that they could change fairly easy, because they could even edit out a lot of the time. I think it's intentional that they're doing it to make it seem like, oh, they're in a real place and this is what real people would talk like. But
yeah,
it doesn't work like that because it reminds me of when you're playing in a rock band and you're playing music that you're like, oh, this is really awesome. We're doing this for us, man. We're doing this for us. And no, you're not. You're doing it for yourself. And yeah, make music that you like and all that sort of shit. But you also, or when you're in a theater program or something and you're doing a show for people and you're getting so focused on, we're doing the work, man. Which, it's not about the audience. We're doing the work. It's always about the audience too. And you have to worry about something being entertaining. Something can't just be introspective. Even if you accept this all for they're really doing something, artistic here in The Walking Dead. Okay, artistic is great, but still make it entertaining. That's the first thing. You do have to worry about your audience. And I think that The Walking Dead somewhere along the way is worrying about doing their thing, hitting their paces, hitting their 1-2 bang bang bang, 1-2 buckle my shoe shit, and not really worrying about because I know what you're saying about they listen to the audience, they want to keep it open, what they think is the popular opinion, but that's different than making a good product. and making it for something for people to care about and actually give a shit. They're making it as cartoony as they possibly could.
If you are running out of ideas as a writer on a show, and you need somebody like an Angela Kang to come in, who's creative at the helm, who has a lot of good ideas to try to help you springboard ideas off of her generalized story, skeleton. You know what I mean? Like, just come and give you the skeleton, and then the rest of the season you are just adding the muscles, the skin, the hair, the eyes, and you are building on it. And you are making it a complete person with conflicts, with visual scars, and just artistic integrity. Because this is why this is like it's an art form. I know it just seems like a bunch of people are supposed to be sitting in the room and it's a TV show, but it's like, no. These initial stories, when Robert Kirkman did it, it's because it's a story that he wanted to tell. And he made a very interesting world. But these writers have since gone away from the source material and are doing what the Game of Thrones people did. The Dan and David situation, where they went off book so much to the point that the main guy who wrote the fucking book doesn't want anything to do with them. And now they're having to backpedal and come up with shit that they hope will fix it out of what little they know of the source material that they don't have access to anymore. They are suffering through the same kind of growing pains that Game of Thrones is. Look at George R. R. Martin. He does not talk about like Dan and David at all, unless if it's negative.
So that's an interesting transition here, and without spoilers, without anything, just to end things off here, David, because this is probably the last time we'll talk to you before Game of Thrones season. Hopefully we'll be able to get you on one of the feedback shows and mixed in on some of our recaps after the fact, get you to call in as usual during the Game of Thrones season. Are you excited, overwhelmingly excited, whelmed, or at an average? If 1 to 5 on your excitement scale, where are you for this final season of Game of Thrones? Or are you cautiously optimistic, cautiously pessimistic?
I'm trying not to be pessimistic, but I'm optimistic, but I'm a realist. I'm an optimistic realist.
So you're cautiously optimistic going into this.
Yeah, I'd say like right now, because it's been fucking 2 years, 2.5 years, which is just retarded. I don't care if the epic battle scene, it's like, yeah, but I don't want to forget where the story was when I come back. 2 years, it's like they've already created other shows and people have fallen out of fandom and have lost interest or have grown up. You know what I mean? Like 2 years is a long fucking time.
Babies are good. Yeah, it's like, yeah, they're. I was gonna start singing like Louis Armstrong there. We've got babies, grow babies. It's like time has passed. We've seen people have gone through puberty in that time.
It's like, I don't know how to make people realize how long 2 years is in terms of television, especially in today's world where there's so many shows.
Yeah.
I guess I would equate it to, think of how many people's 10-year-old dogs died in the time that it took season 7.
Oh, not dog. Oh.
Rick strings. I have a dog too. He's sitting behind me on the bed.
Johnny Drama. Victory.
Yeah.
But
I'll say this. I think I'll give it a 2.75 out of 5.
Awesome. Okay. Atari Dad, didn't they do long breaks? Yes, they did. Before the final season, 6A and 6B, there was a long break. There was even talk that there might not even be a 6B in Sopranos. It was fucking, you're on pins and needles. And that had a lot to do with contractual problems with the actors and getting the right money for everybody. But it was a lot of bullshit. It's a little different than the Game of Thrones situation, where it's actively that they made a decision to take this much time to make this final season. And they said they couldn't do it without this amount of time. But I personally think whatever. But that's a different story. We'll definitely be talking about that stuff later. David, we're going to take a few more chats. But before we go, why don't you tell people where they can find you if they want to get more Walking David and check out some of your old stuff, some of your new stuff, and touch them.
Well, obviously, I would love it if you guys enjoyed anything that I said, to subscribe to my YouTube channel. I put out like movie reviews, and I also do these like bad movie night episodes where I review really shitty movies with some of my friends. And it's kind of like an RLM best of the worst sort of thing. Not nearly as production quality, but you know what I mean. I'm also on Instagram. I'm at Mr. David Grayson without a period and all lowercase. And I've always encouraged people, you're welcome to add me on Facebook if you think that, if you want to see what I'm up to. But Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook, those are always the best ways to reach me. And if you're interested in collaborating on things, then my email's on my YouTube. So you can always hit me up.
Excellent. Thank you, David, and thank you as always for joining me and filling in the big seat of the big guy who we're all doing this in honor of Joe Dirty Locks. I mean, that's real. We're trying to make him happy when David and I do these podcasts without Joe. So.
Yeah, fuck yeah, dude.
Motherfucker. That's true. Oh, it's scary. So let's take a couple of live chat questions before we call this an evening. Martin says, thoughts on the Lydia and Carol scene. We talked a little bit about this earlier. I don't know. I had trouble feeling a lot of tension in that moment because I don't really care about Lydia. Do you have any thoughts on the Lydia in general as a character or in that scene with her and Carol?
I expressed a lot of them earlier. I thought that was an extreme waste of time. I thought it was. I mean, it was anticlimactic. It's not even an option if you think it was or wasn't. It just was not climactic at all. Nothing came of it. They had multiple scenes like that. Her at the water's edge, then she walks off again, and she finds her in the barn and has a conversation with her. It was a waste of time, especially for a finale. I'm extremely pissed that they wasted 7 or 8 minutes and 15 minutes of commercial time just to show that.
The problem I think it comes down to is I think the show is taking for granted the fact that we're supposed to care about Henry's death. And through all of that, it's supposed to feel so strong because we all were supposed to give a shit that Henry fucking died. And most people, I'm not going to say everybody, most people don't care. Blanco says, I just finished watching it, and although old Ricky was going to be the one on the radio, I thought old Ricky was going to be the one on the radio. At the end, I'm late to the party tonight. I'll rewind the stream to get more informed. But great to have you. Thank you for popping on in here, and thank you to everyone in the live chat that has joined us this season on The Walking Dead. Lots of love to the lovely Super Nick, to Jackson, to Catagate, to Johnny Rico, Santovia Major, Susie of House Maven. They could have still got rid of Rick, gave Henry Carl's death and out Ezekiel's head on the pike, and it would have made more sense and had more heart to it. I agree. And so much talking in this episode. So much. It was not much stuff happening. It was an exposition episode. Let's not cut the bullshit. And that is a very weird. Whether these type of episodes have to happen or however you feel about this, it's a very weird choice for a season finale. And I guess we can end on that thought, David. It's strange that they chose to end it this way.
Maybe their thought was, I'm not defending them at all.
Yeah.
But maybe the thought was, we'll end it on exposition because then people are looking forward to season 10. But it's like, no, that's not how it works. Seasons require resolution. Every Sopranos season had some kind of resolution. Breaking Bad had some kind of resolution where at least the story arc was complete and not starting a new one.
No,
if starting one, it started way back, like 5 episodes before the finale, and then went on to the next season.
And people can say Game of Thrones did that, and yes, they did. But you're talking about a very much higher product with a writer's team that gives a shit. Even in the darker times, what you would say of it, it's still a team that gives a shit more about the product that they're putting out, so they can pull off stuff like that and end storylines of a season while littering in season nuggets for the following season. The Walking Dead isn't that subtle and can't pull it off. It's like a bull in a china shop trying to figure out that kind of level of subtlety. And I think the problem here is what you said, David. What they wanted to do was they wanted to get all of this out of the way so next season they can just hit the ground running with not worrying about all this buildup and kind of lead us already to the next season. But the problem, too, is we're going to get one of those recaps on last season of The Walking Dead. And when they lead us up right before the season, it's going to do a better job than this all happened. And they could have just done that leading into the next season and actually ended this one on a positive point, which they chose not to do. I don't know. This left me at a very meh point for what is kind of a mess season of The Walking Dead. And
I don't think people are going to remember this episode, man.
No, they're going to remember. They're going to remember, and they're going to think, if they remember anything, about the heads on the pikes and think that was the season finale.
Yeah, because that's where your emotions stop.
Yeah, if you even get, because we lost Enid and Tara. Oh no.
I mean, I'm not trying to say that every single bit of it was bad, but to give something a 4 out of 10 is not a compliment. And you need to understand that just because you're on the scale and not at a 0 does not mean you did a good job.
Yeah. This is, and I would think that would be about right where I would put this, would be like the 4 side buttholes out of 10. It's just not, it wasn't a good episode, and for a season finale, I have to judge it against the other season finales, and this was probably one of the worst season finales The Walking Dead's ever done. And people go, oh yeah, it's so if they just do the same thing at the season finale, it's predictable all the time. I don't give a shit. The Walking Dead's a predictable show. Give me what I want in the season finale. Give me some fucking fireworks. Fuck you. Okay. So everybody, this is as good a time as any. If you haven't already enjoyed this shit, please hit the like button, please hit the subscribe button, share the channel with a friend. I will be back with Joe Dirtylocks next Sunday evening to do our Game of Thrones preview show for the final season. We'll be babbling. I might have a new silly song to play there for to give us a little bit of patience going into the final week before the season starts. And Joe and I will give our death predictions, some Game of Thrones predictions. I don't know if Katie will be joining us on that one, but Katie will be joining us on our recaps for the season, or at least a few of them. And we will have a few other guests popping in, as well as David will be joining us at least for some podcast during the Game of Thrones season. So all of you guys, have a good night. David, talk to you next time, buddy. Thank you for joining me.
Thanks for having me on, and thanks, motherfucking chat, for putting up with me. I know it's a handful.
Lots of love to the motherfucking chat. Talk to you guys next time.
You can just change it.